Handbook for the New Paradigm. A personal message for you. This is a point in the evolution of the planet that brings to the forefront of each individual's thoughts the question of why me, why now, and what is really going on in the reality that is right now in the time we are experiencing. What really is going on behind the scenes we are aware of through the five senses? Why is there this feeling that there is more to the story than just appearances? Who indeed has set this up and is pulling the strings? Is it really just a group of somebodies that is in charge? If this is the case, then is this God thing really a hoax after all? There are those who believe that to be the true essence of the scenario. Fortunately for the good of all, that is not the truth. The truth is that there are multiple levels of activity behind what appears to be a play of incredible magnitude. Who then is writing the lines for the characters, and what is the point of the script? Would you be surprised to learn that you are writing the lines, and until you can figure out a point to the script, there is none? If that is the case, then which of the individuals on the planet can figure out one? Well, indeed, there is a focus group that has decided that they would like to put forth their point in the script. There's just one problem with this. They have decided to put forth a focus within the play that is not in harmony with the creator of the stage and the theater that this play is to be performed upon. In fact, the plan that this group has in mind has a great surprise at the end of the audience and the actors of the stage. They intend to destroy the audience, the actors, the stage, and the theater. Since the creator of this theater likes this particular theater and thinks of it as a pet project, this idea doesn't appeal to him at all. Since he is not in the business of standing in the way of the creative presentations that are produced within its confines, then he's hoping that the audience will decide to make changes of their own. There is a type of presentation that involves participation of the audience other than just sitting and observing. The theater entrepreneur is wondering whether, if the play being presented becomes obnoxious enough to the audience, they will simply walk away and withdraw their attention. This would then allow the cast and the directors to destroy themselves. But then the theater owner doesn't want its property destroyed along with them. He is hoping that the audience will come up with some other solution. Perhaps there could be an audience participation that would perhaps introduce some new characters that would create lines of script of their own. If a new storyline could be introduced with characters that could change the ending, then the performance could be a comedy or a mystery or a love story rather than a tragedy. Maybe audience participation could indeed create a whole new genre of experience. Instead of depicting repetition of experiences already known, could the audience in the intensity of desire change the storyline? Come up with a creative scenario that would encompass possibilities not yet experienced. Why not? The greater the desire for change, the greater opportunity for creative new boundary expanding story themes. Within the spontaneity of group focus, without the academic control of leadership, with an intended purpose, conception outside of ordinary themes is not only possible, it's probable. To what purpose is this discussion being instigated? It is time that you awaken to your responsibility to change the destination of, the path you are now being pushed to take. It's far past the stage of leading you. It's at the stage of pushing you. It is at the stage where resistance cannot be successful. Therefore, you are going to have to accomplish this by some other means. A way must be literally created that will bring about a solution. Nothing that you have done before will accomplish a change in this situation. Those who have brought you to this point know your current human nature so well that every possibility that you can think of has been blocked. Every cell of resistance is well known by them and is allowed to exist because it has a purpose in their plan. These will be used as graphic examples of what they will not allow. Now you must come into this understanding that there is a passage through this experience for mankind, but you must move into a creative stance, not a resistive posture. This is not what is expected of you based on your past modes of experience. I can assure you that your history has been analyzed and studied by minds and computer model to the point that you are known to an extent that you cannot even imagine. Every reactive scenario has been dissected to the cellular level and restrictive actions planned for each of them. You are faced with the possibility of your very extinction unless you can make a cosmic leap to a level of creative imagination that will completely nullify those plans. Have you not computers of your own? Can you not band into creative discussion groups and ask for entry into the mind of that which created you, where two or more of you are gathered together in my name, within the focused desire for a harmonious understanding, there also I am. Cries and begging to be relieved of the situation by God or Jesus, Buddha or Mohammed will not do it. You have allowed this evil to descend upon you, and it is you, individually and collectively, that must take it upon yourselves to conceive this solution. A new consciousness change must take place within you. Not all of humanity will choose to participate. There will be some that will hide their heads in blame and grovel in the victimhood. So be it. Let them. You have no time to recruit among them, for what of creativity could they offer? This is a clarion call to the consciousness of those with the strength of character to stand up within their own conscious awareness and decide that the situation shall not be allowed to continue to its planned completion. Even those who are in the midst of this abominable plan have no idea that the end is indeed to be annihilation. Unfortunately, it is not only planned to be annihilation of the people and the planet, but of realms beyond imagination. How shall it be done? How can a change come about in the midst of such a lack of understanding of who and what you are? Now, while there is yet time, before the noose tightens, movement in the planet is yet possible. Groups shall come together to stretch their conscious awareness, to invoke the aid of the highest sources of knowledge, to assist them in conceiving of a new way of experiencing manifested existence. This must not be copied from any other experience. It must be literally a conceptual leap, not in its entirety, but an invocation of the beginning framework of such an experience. This is not a process that can be spelled out. It is shadowy in the beginning and is conceived as a possibility, and so it should be. Known boundaries of experience must be transcended. A superhuman assignment, indeed, but not impossible. Out of challenge born of desire and necessity comes the conception of that which is different. Has mankind on this planet been presented with this opportunity before? Indeed. But each time he reverted to known strategies. Now it has been of his creation that this situation exists. It has been his task to make this leap, and so he has now made it so that it must be undertaken, or face a possibility he may cease to exist. All of this is his own doing. Mankind has no one else to blame, so there must be a 180-degree turn from the past, refusal to take on the whole project, to taking it on with resolve and dedication. The focus of energy that holds this planet in orbit within this solar system does not require the power of force to do this, but uses an available process that does not require effort. The concept of power has within it the inherent understanding of effort as force. Since thought attracts, you have brought to you the experience of effort, force, and power. There are other experiences available that do not use this concept. Rocketry projects are an example. Your resources are used to effort one rocket and its payload into the orbits of this planet and then beyond. Yet you are visited by beings of other planets that enter and leave your planet's gravitational field without this wasteful effort. Does this prove to you that there are other ways to accomplish movement without such wasteful and dangerous methods? The search for answers to this question intrigues the mind. There are many that know these possibilities exist, but are unable to envision the answers without the need of using great effort to resist what they envision ties them to the planet. It's not the gravitational field that ties them here. It's a consciousness. It's the interactivity of thought acting upon thought that eludes them. They know that their thoughts can influence the outcome of an experiment. However, the concepts that once projected can be released to interact within itself, and that it can produce an outcome beyond a controlled or desired outcome, is not understood. The need to control, observe, and to prove the process prevents them from reaching into new realms of understanding. What is lacking is the ability to trust that the process can only proceed within positive outcomes once it is released to act within and upon itself. Thought released to act upon itself will return in manifestation glorified and in a form more magnificent than the limited focused mind can imagine. Now the challenge comes to those who desire to be the instruments of changing the negative plans for the destiny of the planet. Can you expand your consciousness to encompass the process that lies just beyond your grasp? It will be necessary for you to begin with the basic desire of participating within a new paradigm of experience. However, to leave the known and desire to venture into unknown requires a courage to release what you feel is the advancement this civilization has made from its Stone Age beginning into modern technological comfort for many on this planet. Do you know that the word civilization is synonymous with slavery? In order to accomplish this experience, it is required giving up the freedom of personal choice in order that the group organization might have precedence. Beyond the family, no organization is necessary. Personal responsibility is the keynote of freedom. Cooperation is a natural phenomenon as long as the need to control is absent. The need to control is a learned activity that becomes habitual through the experience of it. How does one transcend the habitual activity when it is deeply ingrained at the planetary level? It has now reached a point that in and of himself man cannot break this addiction. The adversaries know this well. They assure that humanity cannot change it. How then will it occur as the primary starting point of the shift to a new paradigm of experience? It can be done by understanding that thought-focused and released can indeed act within itself and upon itself. Though it sounds simplistic, and indeed it is reality, it is simple. It's a powerful tool. In order for this process to work, there are some criteria that must be present. Since it is a process of divine order, it must have, at its intentional level, the desire to coordinate within this perpetual process. The purpose of it must be conceived with the focus of the continual involvement of those who will benefit from its inception, through the outward movement of its spheres of influence. The intent of its purpose is the key to the success of the coordination with and within the flow of divine order. If this is reduced to a mathematical formula, then its inclusion cannot cause a change in any of the divine formulas that allow the balance of the whole to exist in harmony. Thought thinking within itself would know if it was acceptable or not. That is the reason the opposition cannot take advantage of this process. Purity of intent to harmonize as the motive is a primary prerequisite. The outlying thought must be specific only in the intent of purpose. It must provide direction of purpose, allowing the thought-thinking process to proceed into divine order by releasing it in total trust, knowing it is accomplished in what you call etheric levels and will then manifest into this recognizable reality using all the available triggers for appropriate interaction. How can you know that this actually will accomplish the desired results and is not just another ploy of the opposition to keep you controlled? Have you heard of this on your own media reports? Is anyone within the approved world of communication touting this as the thing for you to do? Indeed not. You are programmed to focus your energies into the salvaging of your sexy bodies and in your humanitarian thoughts for the suffering multitudes as you have another bite of your steak dinner at the restaurant, or at least another convenient hamburger on your way home from your unproductive labors at the computer keyboard. The process through which you receive this information does use the wonders of your computer. It is a demonstration of thought interacting within itself with the addition of focus. It is the focus of your intent that will initiate the process that you desire. Then thought focused through purposeful intent will complete itself in magnificence through the energy of your faith and trust. Firmly holding to the knowledge that the etheric form of it was completed in less than the blinking of your eye will allow it to manifest into third-dimensional reality. The computer-like process of the creation are indeed endowed with quickness. Then again, the ball shall be returned to your court for more to be done within your dimension. It is with careful and focused intent that the reality of this earthly experience is now being engineered into a pattern of downward movement into the darker and heavier energies that are at the lower end of the scale in which the human body can exist. This makes the contact between the extension, the spirit and the body, and its soul, the focus source, more difficult. This is not the whole of the intent. This allows for the possibility of separation of the two energies. Intricate manipulations of this extension energy must be accomplished in order for this to be a possibility. The capture of this soul energy is the purpose of causing a break in the chain of energies that extend from the matrix of the soul. It is the belief of those doing this that it will cause a breakdown of the positive energies that comprise the basic building blocks of creation. In other words, They perceive that causing a break in the return flow of the energy back to its source will cause a disruption in the larger combined pattern of the galactic matrix. The conception of this group of separatists is that a chain reaction will happen, allowing for chaos to such a degree that their focus can reorganize this chaos into their own matrix. This is quite an arrogant and ambitious undertaking. The plan includes many more quite fantastic steps to follow through its completion. This is not a plan conceived on a moment's notice. It is one that has been put together over eons of time in your counting. However, since their plans are countered to the controlling parameters within the creation has come into manifested experience, they are unable to take advantage of the processes that also act as fail-safe guards available to the creation for the purpose of preventing this planned procedure from causing such an event. Your logical question is, how has this rebellion been allowed to continue to this point? The free will aspect is what has been exploited as a basis for their ability to manipulate humanity to be the vehicle of their power. Yours is the exact state of consciousness to serve their purpose. You are malleable enough to be influenced into desiring change when pressure is applied to the soul extension connection, and change is exactly what they want. At each critical junction in the previous cycles, mankind has been influenced to change what was present rather than to desire an entire new experience. Within the cycles of energy that maintain manifested creation at the various dimensions, there are critical points which allows for changing the vibratory parameters of these dimensions. There is within this opportunity ways that they've worked out to create a downward spiral into heavier energy rather than the lifting of vibration as was intended. This can only happen when the mass consciousness of that vibratory level of planetary experience has its focus on experiences at the lowest level of that dimension. As we approach another one of these opportunities, you can observe where the mass consciousness is with regard to what you call ethics and character, by considering the role models that are currently popular. However, there's a risk for them in their process. There is a point at which a restrictive pressure of controlling the thought process of the mass consciousness of the planet can backfire and cause exactly the opposite of what they have planned. This will cause them to miss the opportunity of the final dimensional vibratory change needed for the completion of their plans. They have been successful in the use of the various techniques enable them to greatly weaken the soul-human extension connection. Because of technology and greater understanding of the nature of human experience, techniques have been developed that indicate success in the process of separating extension and soul. There is a considerable overconfidence in the success of the techniques used on individuals as being applicable to large groups of a critical percentage of the mass consciousness. The results of these experimental successes have them quite intoxicated and already savoring the completion of their divergent goals. However, it is possible to reverse these procedures and reunite the energy into wholeness again, though the complete healing of these beings that have been used as guinea pigs will require much help. The grace of the Creator shall be showered upon those individuals to assure the soul matrix is not distorted. The implications of this picture are many, but do not despair, for in the knowledge of this, you can plainly see that you are not alone in the healing of this situation. It is just that free will is of the essence of how you got yourselves into this situation, and it will be through the use of free will that you will desire to finally do something drastic enough that will get you through it. You have used change to get you out before, and it has only altered the situation. It did not resolve it completely. In this case, that scenario is such that it is literally do or die, to borrow your vernacular. Within the proper choice of focus lies your salvation. Smile, you're on the winning side. As each of you come to understand this is a pivotal time in which to complete a spiritual journey involving multiple trips through this earthly experience, it will become obvious that there's not a moment to be wasted in the final hours of this episode. If you are to accomplish this goal, and end this chapter of history of planetary experience, those who have chosen to mock the Creator's plan must not write it. This is a time in which you cannot leave this change in the hands of others. It's too great a responsibility to be left to a few. You must make your contribution in order to be assured that it will be accomplished and that you shall be included in the multitude that make this a reality. To accomplish this, First, you must open your eyes and see what is happening around you. You must then come to the unpleasant understanding that you have allowed this to occur because overwhelming mythology of deception influenced you and resisted becoming involved through taking any personal responsibility in changing it. Careful remembering of the past intuitive feelings bring you to the truth. You are now and have been aware that something sinister is present. In all honesty, you lack the courage to look at what it might be because of the implications of what it could involve personally. Courage to do this has come through the change of your attitude. The magnitude of the implication of what the planners of this situation are capable of doing to your personal future and in that of the family and friends has allowed your desire to know to overwhelm your reluctance. This then leads to the necessity of considering this larger implication for the planet and its inhabitants as a whole. This process has brought you to the point of looking directly into the face of truth. Unfortunately, it's not some religious or esoteric concept that is, the truth will set you free, but what has been in your own desire to avoid at all cost. What you must understand is that this truth is about a situation that could end your earthly experience in extremely unpleasant circumstances and places your eternal existence in jeopardy. The stakes are extremely high and the circumstances are dire indeed. This is not a time to hide in your usual excuse of what can one person do. A large number of one persons can accomplish a great deal. Becoming cannon fodder is not the solution. It's required that you become a much more subtle influence. Learn one truth now. Subtle energy is powerful, and the most powerful energy is subtle. Your Bible says in the beginning was the Word, but words are thoughts spoken out loud, an inaccurate translation. In the beginning was thought. That is the subtle energy we are asking you to employ. Simply change the focus of your thought. Do not allow yourself to dwell upon the horrors of what is planned for you, but turn your thought to what is that you would prefer to experience. You are trained by their mythology to think only about the programming thoughts of acquiring things, opinions of others, self-preservation among thieves and murderers, and escape from self-directed thoughts through addiction to TV, movies, and soul-jarring music. Last but not least, pursuit of sexual experience, be it in or out of a monogamous relationship. There is also the mind-boggling profusion of religious entities to further lead you from the personal quest of understanding the connection to the source of your presence on this planet in the first place. I can assure you that Jesus, Buddha, and Muhammad had nothing to do with it. It is not that these beings did not exist, nor that they were not here to attempt to give you guidance in getting to this dilemma, but the message they brought were distorted long ago. Neither did they come here to get you out by your belief of their existence, past or present. They came to teach you that you must get yourself through this by taking personal responsibility and creating, through thought, a new planetary experience. In this way only will you be able to move through this painful experience. You accept this responsibility by making a personal commitment between you and the creative energy that focused you through your thought into this existence. You will know how to participate in creating what will replace this living nightmare with a new experience. How? You search for it through your desire to know and participate in its creation. Then, through seemingly miraculous coincidence, how to participate shall become known to you. The critical point of the process is making the commitment within your own awareness that the most important thing is participating in the creation of an experience that is 180 degrees opposite what is now planned to be your final earthly sojourn. The evidence of the necessity to do this surrounds you in irrefutable profusion. You need only to open your eyes, consider the changes in your personal freedoms that are happening in quick succession, and listen to, hear the research evidence in both spoken and written presentations on your radios, internet, and in books. Very soon, those will no longer be available to you, leaving only word of mouth. So it is imperative that you respond to this information. You are encouraged to react only through your change of attitude and in your commitment to become a part of the subtly powerful movement. There will not be an Armageddon as suggested in their version of the Bible. It shall be a replacement of the planned world through shifting the focus of the awareness of the beings on this planet toward that which is desired rather than which is being forced upon them. It shall be the individual inner change that conquer the outer forces that plan to control your very essence of self-awareness. Upon the acceptance of this clarion call lies the future of your survival and the experiences that await for you within eternity. Indeed, this is a glorious day. The rain falls and the air is clear. Rain is falling generously on the planet, and Mother Earth begins the washing of herself in earnest. Is this being engineered? It would appear so. But are there contemptuous machines all that powerful? Do not be so sure. Remember that Earth is a projection of thought, and thought is self-aware and interacts within itself to greater or lesser degrees. Would Earth think to a greater or lesser degree? That's a question to contemplate. This is a moment in which to be aware of the changing of the guard. It seems that the destiny of the planet has been wrested from the control of its inhabitants, as it would appear the control of the Republic of the USA has been taken from its people. Movement within the conscious awareness of the inhabitants present has begun. These levels of consciousness are subtle and they are powerful. Notice that this change in consciousness is not at a vibratory level that will alert the negative forces. Its momentum builds within the subtle, powerful planes of energy forces that hold this planet in focus. It is the thought interacting within itself. It is acting in concert as a changing perception of the mass consciousness that is similar to a natural shedding process. Like the snake, there's an itchiness is being felt. This process allows for a time of vulnerability and the dangers from enemies, for it is an internal process. The snake indeed goes within an available den because during this internal process it becomes literally blind. All focus is within itself as the process goes through its formation of a new outside experience, for it has outgrown its ability to continue as it is. Even the covering of the eyes is changed so that it sees its world anew. Only the death of the snake can prevent this cyclical occurrence. Thus it takes great care during this process. This is an apt analogy for our consideration of the progress of mankind through what appears to be a dilemma of great proportion. Just as a fetus grows too large for the womb and must give up its current experience and adventure out into a completely new environment, there are guiding examples throughout nature to suggest its process as a natural phase of manifested life experience. The separation of man from nature by being herded into metropolitan areas is not an accident. It has been used many times to suppress individual power to control the experience of life. Closely compacted form is more easily pushed to and fro in the effort of moving individuals into experiences that are contrary to their natural desires toward individual responsibility in choosing their life experience. This herding smothers the natural desires and opens the psyche to influence by the confusion that is drawn within the totality of the being. There is a fundamental call from within each for balance. The lack of ability to choose experiences freely causes the distortion of energy patterns that bring intuitional discomfort and searchings to change that feeling. This need is then led to unending streams of unfulfilling pursuits by those who would change the destiny of this planetary experience. However, there are ingrained patterns of experience that are reminiscent of the skin-shedding process that cannot be distorted. The negative forces have their time schedule that must be met. The timing of this process of human skin-changing is not one that they are privy to know more, no matter how they analyze and reanalyze the human experience from their perspective. Can you now realize that thought thinking within itself has created fail-safe checks that prevent destruction, if at all possible? Again, we are faced with that one element that can put on hold even the fail-safe checks and balances, free will. Each has personal responsibility for the use of this great gift of the Creator. He has confidence that the fragments of himself may enjoy taking themselves to the edge of extinction for the fun of the adventure. But just as in your action movies, a depiction of this underlying adventurous focus, through perfect timing the hero moves through the scenario with hardly a scratch, or at least nothing that cannot be healed. Sometimes you miss the point of the movies. You are now at the critical place in this script. It is time to ride in the shift of momentum from the bad guys to the hero, so that he can experience that unexpected twist of the storyline that allows for his harrowing escape, leaving the bad guys holding the bag. Let us hope that it's not a Superman or a secret agent adventure, in which again there is no end to the bad guy and another adventure between them is waiting in the wings. You've already experienced those scripts. Again, you've missed the point of the movies. You feel that the sense of satisfaction of evil vanquished when you leave that genre of movie? That is the point of it, to always leave you with the idea that evil remains no matter what you do. Were not your experiences in Korea, Vietnam, and Desert Storm outward depictions of the same frustrating movie? All wars have the same result. It has just not been part of the plan until recently to flaunt it so plainly for you to see. Your ability to discern and react is being tested over and over. Why would items of what is being sanctioned or withheld from innocent people in Iraq be published in your newspapers? What do these items for personal use of individual innocent people have to do with prevention of war preparation? These lists were published worldwide. How do you think the people who uphold their degenerate president who is instigating this are thought by the rest of the world? A new movie genre is now being released now. In these, your people are being held accountable. These depict surges of justifiable retribution, terrorism, and are being planted in the minds of those of other countries. Their ideal of America as the light of the world is being destroyed by your diplomacy of arrogance towards other countries' right of self-determination. These punishments are seen as appropriate by them, for they are unable to resist this injustice on a larger scale. The disturbances used as excuses to interfere within the borders of the countries are made to give the appearance that there is a necessity to intervene for the good of the citizens. These contrived situations are a hoax, created by subversive groups like the CIA. The resultant aftermath of your American intervention is hardly what you are told it is. Guilt, as being used as a tool, will not serve to end the charade. Do not waste your time on it. Resolve to be part of the solution in order that this error in perception may be rectified. The wake-up call is being sounded, and the internal intuitional agitation to shed the skin of the deceptively controlled experience has begun in earnest. The time of choosing to move within the flow of creation or to remain stuck within the hoax is upon all of humanity. Education, as it is known, is not an advantage. It is within each self-awareness that this process takes place. All are equal in the opportunity in this process. Believe that. Purity of response outweighs educational degrees. Those who know the least of what is going on will hear first. You have been educated into the deception that provides the grease upon the wheels of their plans. You have been fooled into supporting them as they carried forth their plans. So far, they have been focused upon the uneducated and those unable to oppose the power you are giving the manifested evil ones to consent by believing their lies. In the reality that surrounds your awareness in the third dimensional experience, it's easier to allow the seduction of your five senses into believing that this is all there is to the duration of your stay within your body. Indeed, this has been further enhanced by the introduction of the visual aids of photos, movies, TV, and computers. To add telegraph, telephone, satellites, plus music and sporting events, all beginning in childhood at the earliest possible moment. Where is there, within this onslaught of mind-boggling confusion of distractions, time or desire to contemplate within silence anything but a replay of these experiences? The conscious awareness tries to clear out the clutter of this overload so that the contact can be made within your inner awareness, and the contemplation can then begin of how and why you are within this experience. This is a process that goes on quite naturally, except for in the consciousness half of this combination is overloaded with stimuli. It should be immediately apparent to the reader that this is the case in the modern North American, European parts of the world. Furthermore, it is spreading to the more affluent elements around the planet. Once exposed to this mind-stifling process, it appears to be relaxing. It's not relaxing, it's mind-suppressing. The creative, self-contemplating portions of the awareness are being shut down. The more the experience is repeated, the more of an addiction to it is acquired. Instead of enjoying mentally stimulating experiences, these are experienced as disquieting and downright irritating. Thus you see the joggers with their wired-up ears listening rather than contemplating their own thoughts. Somehow, they must stay connected to their addiction by distraction. If not radios or tapes, then it's car phones to stay connected so no one can pontificate with their friends. Can you, reading this or hearing this, separate yourself from the distraction of this process to contemplate and absorb descriptions of the wondrous fantasy land existing that you are experiencing? Where is what you call reality within a world that is mostly pretend? When you look in truth at the information you trade daily through your computer connections, how much of it is indeed concrete manifested reality? In the money transferred from one account to another, actual stacks of bills? Do that many stacks of denominations of money actually exist? Where are there banks, safes to house trillions of dollars? Wake up. You are dreaming. But if you wake up, you will have to face the solid reality that you've been used, and that is too frightening to contemplate. How long do you think this dream bubble can go on expanding before it breaks of its own thinness, or perhaps because there are ones that will enjoy pricking the bubble? Would it not be best to wake up early and begin to dream a new ending to the nightmare in disguise that you are now experiencing? Can you do that? Of course you can. It's your dream. That you have been programmed to dream a particular scenario can only continue as long as you allow it. There is something called lucid dreaming in which you awaken to an awareness you are dreaming. Then you can stop at that degree of consciousness, observe yourself dreaming, and change the scenario of the dream. If you are being chased, create a safe hiding place. Have the pursuer fall into a hole or a train come between you and you escape. You have been lulled into a dream state by the distraction of your conscious awareness in order to separate you from your self-awareness state, which is the state in which you observe your dream process. You can correlate this into an awareness that will allow you to reclaim the severed connection to both parts of your total awareness. In truth, your intuitive awareness is beginning now to become awake to the truth of this information. Do you know that you have the power within yourself to encourage this feeling and come out of the unnatural state of distraction into full awareness? This waking process can allow you to avoid the fear and panic that you think facing it might bring, and instead give you an ability to discover yourself as a focus of energetic and creative expression. It will not awaken the brute caveman persona that you might expect. Instead, a contemplative ability to focus upon solutions that will come forth that will replace what was formerly sensed as an undefeatable force and an unsolvable situation. This force was smothering you in a deepening dream, reality that you will discover does not even exist. It may appear so to the five senses, but you perceive that beyond those lies a potential that supersedes what you have known before, the same potential that pulls entrepreneurs into successful businessmen and explorers towards unknown places. It is an enticing, intuitional call that pulls them from the unknown to desire an experience that is unknown and holds a vibration of potential and success that cannot be resisted. Many hear the call, but few choose to answer it. That does not mean that it does not exist. The success stories are proof enough of its existence. It is hoped that this information for you to contemplate apart from your normal mesmerizing existence. Is there something beyond this enticing humdrum existence that could be even more rewarding? Indeed, there is. Around the World in 80 Days was a marvelously funny satire on good and evil in competition. Don't we wish the same scenario in one's reality could be as carefree and funny, with all the pratfalls and hair-raising potential danger scenes? You can rest assured that the observers of play upon the stage of the planet Earth are not laughing at the similar scenes as they pass through their manifested reality. Instead, they watch through detached wisdom, knowing that the ending will be a positive one, but with concern for how many awareness points shall move within the ascending transformation process, and how many will be left to be shepherded through the process of another opportunity. It shall be a great relief to those when the earth experience in this particular point of focus will have been completed. Just how it shall all come together has become of major interest, for indeed you have created your own grand and spectacular stage play. The storyline is quite unique, something like the perils of Pauline of the galaxy. It is noted that the terms of universe and galaxy are tossed about with abandon, and you will find yourself puzzled in the attempting to correlate with these into a meaningfully third-dimensional understanding. In truth, this is not quite possible, but we shall make an attempt at doing so. Galaxy refers to the flow of manifested reality around a center of focus. Universe refers to the focused intent of coagulation of energy that, in your terminology, lies beyond and supports this manifested reality. There are universal laws allows for creation and maintenance of this galaxy. Since you are part of this galaxy you have named the Milky Way, then if you are experiencing harmony within it, you must live within these laws. In this case, you are like children playing pin the tail on the donkey. For these laws have been withheld from you, and you are left to discover them by trial and error. Right now, you are far into the error process. Is this not how it has been ordained for you to learn, then? Indeed not. The blindfold has been deliberately placed upon you, and you have been fooled into thinking that you have no right to remove it. The blindfold is the game of deception in which you are enticed to look, where the magician deliberately presents action for you to watch while he supports it with motions you do not perceive. Your attention is focused on what you think is the only action. Fortunately, not all the audience is fooled. They watch you and wonder why you do not see the process the magician used. The fact is, they wonder why you are now at a stage where you only perceive his spotlighted action and do not even see the magician. You are so mesmerized that indeed the supporting motions to the actions are no longer even hidden. They pursued all around him on the stage, and you still see none of them. How is this possible? By hypnotizing the conscious mind. Luckily, there's another part of the mind is beyond this conscious thinking. Your psychologists called it your subconscious mind. They have painted it as holding your perception of life hostage because it is full of dark, horrible experiences perpetuated on you by well-meaning but abusive parents. As a result, you fear it and block it for participating in your experience of life. Why is the word life capitalized? Because that is the purpose of your experience on this planet. You are alive. That is aware of experiencing this life energy moving through you and played out on the screen of your observing ego mind. The ego, the devil of your existence, or so you have been led to believe. Anyone acting in a pushy manner is being considered egotistical. His ego has him by the necktie and is causing him to misbehave according to the imposed social norms. He is controlled by his evil subconscious acting out through his ego, and he must be brought down a peg, and that awful ego humbled into compliance. The successful businessman is successful because his inflated ego runs amok over others and snatches success from the hands of the deserving underling, and so forth. Need I go on painting this picture of the sleight of mind? What then is the true picture? If there is no ego, there will be no awareness of this manifested experience. The ego is your tape recorder. It's the observer of your thoughts, wants, needs, and desires. It takes these thoughts into a type of a robotic focus format, and this allows them to manifest into circumstances and situations that create your experience. It literally filters your thoughts, feelings, and desires and causes them to coalesce into manifested experience. It is a process, not an entity. It is a process over which you have complete control. If you can take charge of your thoughts, feelings, and desires and actively direct them towards what you want to experience, these thoughts must be relatively depictive. For example, if you simply focus on change, then expect chaos within your life, for that will be the change you create until you decide upon a more precise idea of what you want in the experience. The process of how this works involves a universal law called attraction. Once an idea is formed with a positive understanding that it is possible, then the ego holds this picture and completes the process through positive-negative polarity energy. Through the action of the law of attraction and the malleable nature of the potentiality of an idea actually coming into your experience, it does. Since instant manifestation of ideas on this planet at the moment is very difficult, the ego incorporates the process within your supporting idea of time. If you are unable to remain focused on your desire of a certain experience, then oftentimes you deny yourself that desired experience. There's a comment in your Bible regarding praying amiss. Since that which you refer to as God is creative in nature, whenever you are focusing your desire in a sincere manner for this experience, then you are in constant prayer, for you are within this creative, expansive expression that originates within the source of your existence. But what if you are asking for something that would cause problems for someone else? The law works. But there's an effect for what you have caused. As noted above, you are using the universal law of attraction, and in its process involves like energy attracting more energy. If you cause a problem for someone else as a purposeful use of this law, then what you create for someone else you will also experience. It's like two sides of the same coin. One is presented to the other person and one is presented to you. If you are serious and attempting to understand this law, then if you dare, look at the events that you've already experienced, and you will see that this has been the case many times. When you have wished a blessing for someone else, you also experienced one. Not in exactly the same way, but in something of meaning that came within your life. Consider also difficulties. I believe there's reference in the Bible that instructs you to put a guard on your mouth for the words, including thoughts, that come forth do not return to you empty. In utilizing this understanding, you must hold a desire steadily within your consciousness. If you err in your desire by wishing to create a problem in the life of another, you have time early in the process to reconsider and to withdraw the focus of that intent. Then it will not manifest for them to experience. Emotions, strong feelings can increase the potential of manifestation and hurry the process, whether it is for your own good, experience, or for another one. The opposite is also true. It is time for the entertainment portion of this purposefully written portion of the play, and the distraction of your attention from your purpose for being within this experience on the planet Earth to end. Now you must decide whether to take back your power, remove the blindfold of your own volition, or wait until somebody removes it for you. The picture will be even more shocking if you wait, for you will be totally unprepared for the scene planned for you to view. There's little time remaining for you to make your decision. The glitzy world you are living within an illusion. Behind its facade is another one that plays out a game of power that requires your total cooperation and the giving of your creative power willingly by overwhelming your sense of possessing any personal power whatsoever. Example, but what can one person do? Sound familiar? Answer, more than you can possibly imagine. But first you must realize that you have that power. When the conditions of deterioration surround you, how can you comment that this is a glorious day? Indeed, it is, for those conditions are drawing to a close. The ending may contain surprises. Your Armageddon will arrive, but it shall not be in a format that you've been told to expect. The forces of light and darkness shall not parry and thrust in a format of war, but nonetheless the situation will have moments of what might be called confrontation, but it will not be in the third-dimensional battle of armaments. This should be comforting, for the power of even those third-dimensional devices can destroy the planet. If indeed the Creator is a focus of love, then the methods of destruction would not be possible. These are only possible within the distorted use of negative polarity energy. Within the two focus of positive-negative energy lies the center point of harmony. This is the goal of all manifested energy, to exist within this harmonious point. However, it has one disadvantage in that the still point of existence would allow for no movement at all, thus it cannot be maintained for only a relatively short period. As a result, there is constant movement away from and returning to this ideal. Within the totality of the galaxy, there is a balance point between portions of it moving away and toward this still point. This is seen at the movement of the planets, and what you perceive as the Mazzaroth or the zodiac as they move in cycles around the center point of the galaxy. Within these revolving moments are many smaller cycles that you cannot observe. When a distortion occurs within one of the smaller cycles, it is allowed up to a certain point. When it reaches a point at which its distortion begins to affect larger cycles, then the attention is focused to correct this distortion. Its attention is now on planet Earth. Destruction would indeed affect other cycles. One planet in your solar system was already destroyed. Balance was maintained with great difficulty, but the loss of another planet would cause chaos that would be far-reaching indeed. For this reason, a great deal of attention is now being paid to your situation. If it were not for the limiting factor of the free will of the inhabitants, balance should have been obtained long before this point. The emphasis, the important obtaining consent through deception of the inhabitants for the introduction of atomic destruction devices. Plans are afoot to create the very chaos that planetary destruction would bring. The stakes are very high indeed in this game of control. The plan behind this destruction is ambitious beyond your imagination. It involves the creation of negative polarity universe galaxy. To perpetuators of this situation, you are not even small fry in the game. This is a confrontational at the level of the creator of this universe galaxy. Have we made this up? Indeed, we wish we could tell you that. That is the usurping of your ability to make your free will decisions as to whether to cooperate or not. That is the small key to the success of their plan. This will allow you to understand the multiple levels of control that have been used and why your complete control, which of course is impossible, has been used as the manipulation beyond your deception. Indeed, there are many levels of control of the people on your planet. Those who think they are in control in planning this scenario are just as controlled as their plans for you. As this plays out, there are elements within the situation that are going to be more surprised than your general populace. However, because of the surprise will be a higher level than even that plan includes. What must be remembered in the greater perception of this is that all exists, and that does mean all. So, out of the potentiality that underlines manifested creation, in following the layers of energies that coagulate into manifested realities in reverse order, the building blocks become finer and finer in vibrational quality until it reaches beyond what the Kabbalah calls Ein-Sof, or pure potentiality. In order to cause an entire galaxy to change polarities, it would be necessary to return to the point to cause such an event to happen. Needless to say, this is an extremely simplistic explanation, but should give you an understanding of the audacity of the idea and the relatively chances for its success. However, the attempt to do this by working backwards through the existing creation to accomplish this goal holds within it the possibility of a pattern resulting chaos of no small proportion. Now, to come upon the realization that your conscious consent had to be obtained in order to accomplish this should give you cause to take notice of your responsibility in all of this. Unless you wake up and change the path of which you are moving, there's a great possibility to be faced. Granted, you've been lulled into a zombie-like existence, but that has been your choice through lack of personal responsibility toward yourselves and your fellow man. At the end of this sojourn into life experience, you stand and recount your experience in the light of full understanding, and it is you who judge your own actions. No one judges you. You are then aware of what might have been had you lived your experiences through extending the love that created you rather than in pursuit of distractions that gave you no real satisfaction. What now do you do at this pivotal point in your time? In the knowledge of this picture, which you are hardly able to acknowledge may even be a possibility, what can you do? First, you must contemplate this understanding and come to face within it your own conscious thinking process. You must consider it as a possibility being true. Then you must admit to your unknowing complicity in the treatment of your fellow human beings on this planet. You must move through your regrets for having been unaware through a process of denial, for the existence of the situations was plainly presented to you by the magician. This use of your consent was by real conspirators with very large agendas to put you into place. You cannot linger in the destructive guilt process. You must resolve to come into your personal responsibility to cause this situation to change from its intended path. You are expected to stop being a victim, and certainly not to become a martyr, for there is no place to begin to resist this onslaught. You must vow and commit to be part of the solution. Then, despite the continuing push of deceptive encroachment into your awareness, you must begin to discern what is truth. You must hold your resolve to move through this to a new and greater understanding. When this becomes your greatest personal truth, then you will find opportunities to become part of a different movement, employing methods that will not constitute physical resistance, but will use an entirely new approach. There is no other way open, for resistance on a physical level would be immediately snuffed out. Your constitution is no longer an effective shield, and will be dissolved, but that matters not. It is an assuming personal responsibility that one accepts the challenge and does not fade in fear. Others shall come forth in like awareness and consciousness. Together, this spreading group awareness shall provide the pivotal point that will bring an end to this situation. The resolve to be part of the solution from the depths of personal consciousness is the key that will open the lock, end the imprisonment of the humanity, and bring forth true freedom to the inhabitants of this planet. Many are called, but few are choose to respond. Where do you stand at this pivotal point? You must ask yourself, and you must answer yourself. Dear messengers, now that the handbook is complete, it's time that we turn the intention of the flow of the information towards the next phase to follow. As the momentum begins to grow, not so much at the actual manifestation level, as within the intentions to participate, the idea dawns that a crisis point exists. Our pebble in the pond of mass consciousness, that no doubt seems ever so tiny to you, is indeed powerful. The shift in perception is the most important beginning point possible. This bypasses the negative emotions of anger and the desire to retaliate. Your Bible states, "Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord." This is total untruth, but it does contain the advice to leave the law of attraction to its natural action. Your misunderstood karmic law, as quoted when there is the desire for someone to get their just due, is indeed a distorted reference to the law of attraction. When quoting it in judgment, it applies in that instant also. Judge not, lest you be judged. The law of allowance would be wisely used instead, as in, I am a human becoming, help me become. Or, they are humans becoming, help them to become. Or, he or she is a human becoming, help he or she to become. Indeed, this prayer for others is sharing the gift of grace and is allowance indeed. This introduces the next level in the shift of human consciousness, beyond self to include others through allowance, thereby transcending the need to control. It is important when working within the focus intended to be inclusive of the mass consciousness of the entire planet to forego the desire to quote rules and regulations. These do not sell well, especially with the diversity of understandings within the consciousness of 6 billion beings. Back to the basic of basics in simple language that is translatable with as little distortion as possible is most logical. KISS is indeed the rule. Acronyms are interesting shortcuts to recognition. Perhaps we could invent AIAB for attraction, intention, allowance, and balance, or FSTF for the first, second, third, and fourth. In order to cross language, culture, and religious barriers, simple applications must teach the basic laws without formalities. They must be practically applicable in all life situations and bring forth the desired shift in perspective that translates into changes of attitudes and consciousness. It is possible to do this with a few simple words that include AIAB. This seems paradoxical in a world of overwhelming numbers of communications literally moving faster than the speed of light. Of course, overwhelming is the key. The paradox includes the haves who long for greater simplicity and the have-nots who long for greater complexity. The inner void remains at all points on the scale of human experience on this planet, except for those who are now aware of the creation of the new paradigm. It is a first instinct when encountering these messages for individuals to want to rush to the mission before study and contemplation brings forth the necessary, fundamental, basic changes in consciousness that allows for synchronistic encounters with people and information to bring into their awareness what their part is. For multitudes, the change in perspective and attitude through the use of the simple prayer is all that is required. These will reap the miracles of a richer life experience. In the midst of chaos, through their focus on the intent within the wave of new consciousness, spreading the message of the Word, and applying the basics in their daily lives is the most important mission of all. If applying these is not done at the fundamental levels of human experience, then all the messages are to no avail whatever. These are the ripples. What good are the pebbles if the pond remains static? The victim consciousness must be transcended so that humanity can take back its power. When you share the gift of this information, you must be able to supply feedback to those who receive these messages and reply in a reactive mode. The pent-up desire for change is released, and direction needs to be given to those who rush to you for guidance. Personal responsibility is another way of saying, take your power and use it with intentional focus to bring balance. The balanced state of experience is necessary to be functioning part of the ground team. Rereading, studying, contemplating, and applying what is within the messages through personal experience will prove the validity of the information and bring forth balance within chaos. The ground team has space for those who are awake, aware, committed, focused, and balanced. This brings forth the ability to act rather than react. If it is not yet time for individuals to act, then encourage them to continue to study, share the message, and be within the rippling effect while they wait patiently. This is the space you must occupy to be functional and ready, is putting oil in your lamp so that it may be lit in the moment of opportunity. So, become this consciousness. A Message to Garcia by Albert Hubbard. This literary trifle, A Message to Garcia, was written one evening after supper, in a single hour. It was on the 22nd of February, 1899, Washington's birthday, and we were just going to press with the March Philistine. The thing leapt hot from my heart, written after a trying day, when I had been endeavoring to train some rather delinquent villagers to abjure the comatose state and get radioactive. The immediate suggestion, though, came from a little argument over the teacups when my boy Bert suggested that Rowan was a real hero of the Cuban War. Rowan had gone alone and done the thing, carried the message to Garcia. It came to me like a flash. Yes, the boy's right. The hero is the man who does his work, who carries a message to Garcia. I got up from the table and wrote A Message to Garcia. I thought so little of it that we ran it in the magazine without a heading. The edition went out, and soon orders began to come for extra copies of the March Philistine, 12, 50, 100. And when the American News Company ordered 1,000, I asked one of my helpers which article it was that had stirred up the cosmic dust. It's the stuff about Garcia, he said. The next day a telegram came from George Daniels of the New York Central Railroad, thus, give me a price on 100,000 Rowan articles in a pamphlet form. Empire State Express advertisement on the back. Also, how soon can we ship? I replied given price, and we stated we could supply the pamphlets in 2 years. Our facilities were small, and 100,000 booklets looked like an awful undertaking. The result was that I gave Mr. Daniels permission to reprint the article in his own way. He issued it in booklet form in editions of 500,000. 2 or 3 of these 500,000 lots were sent out by Mr. Daniels. And in addition, the article was reprinted in over 200 magazines and newspapers. It has been translated into all written languages. At the time Mr. Daniels was distributing the message to Garcia, Prince Hylikov, director of the Russian Railroad, was in this country. He was a guest of the New York Central and made a tour of the country under the personal direction of Mr. Daniels. The prince saw the little book and was interested in it, more because Mr. Daniels was putting it out in such big numbers, probably, than otherwise. In any event, when he got home, he had the matter translated into Russian and a copy of the booklet given to every railroad employee in Russia. Other countries then took it up, and from Russia it passed into Germany, France, Spain, Turkey, Hindustan, and China. During the war between Russia and Japan, every Russian soldier who went from the front was given a copy of the message to Garcia. The Japanese, finding the booklets in possession of the Russian prisoners, concluded that it must be a good thing, and accordingly translated into Japanese. And an order of the Mikado, a copy was given to every man in the employ of the Japanese government, soldier or civilian. Over 40 million copies of A Message to Garcia have been printed. This is said to be a larger circulation than any other literary venture of the author in all history, thanks to a series of lucky accidents. Signed, December 1st, 1913. A Message to Garcia. In all of this Cuban business, there is one man that stands out on the horizon of my memory like Mars at peripheron. When war broke out between Spain and the United States, it was necessary to communicate quickly with the leader of the insurgents. Garcia was somewhere in the mountain fastness of Cuba. No one knew where. No mail or telegraph message could reach him. The president must secure his cooperation, and quickly. What to do? Someone said to the president, "There's a fellow by the name of Rowan who will find Garcia for you, if anybody can." Rowan was sent for and given a letter to be delivered to Garcia. How the fellow by the name of Rowan took the letter, sealed it up in an oilskin pouch, strapped it over his heart, in 4 days landed by night off the coast of Cuba from an open boat, disappeared into the jungle, and in 3 weeks came out on the other side of the island, having traversed a hostile country on foot, and delivered his letter to Garcia, are things I have no special desire now to tell in detail. The point that I wish to make is this. McKinley gave Rowan a letter to be delivered to Garcia. Rowan took the letter and did not ask, "Where is he at?" By the eternal, there is a man whose form should be cast in deathless bronze, and the statue placed in every college of the land. It's not book learning young men need, nor instructions about this and that, but a stiffening of the vertebrae which will cause them to be loyal to a trust, to act promptly, concentrate their energies, do the thing, carry a message to Garcia. General Garcia is dead now, but there are other Garcias. No man who has endeavored to carry out an enterprise where many hands were needed, but has been well nigh appalled at times by the imbecility of the average man, the inability or unwillingness to concentrate on a thing and do it. Slipshod assistance, foolish inattention, dowdy indifference, and half-hearted work seems the rule, and no man succeeds, unless by hook or crook or threat he forces or bribes other men to assist him, or mayhap God in his goodness performs a miracle and sends him an angel of light for assistance. You, reader, put this matter to a test. You are sitting now in your office. 6 clerks are within call. Summon anyone and make this request. Please look in the encyclopedia and make a brief memorandum for me concerning the life of Corriego. Will the clerk quietly say, "Yes, sir," and go do his task? On your life, he will not. He will look at you out of a fishy eye and ask one more of the following questions. Who was he? Which encyclopedia? Was I hired for that? Don't you mean Bismarck? What's the matter with Charlie doing it? Is he dead? Is there any hurry? Shan't I bring you the book and let you look it up yourself? What do you want to know for? And I will lay you 10 to 1 that after you've answered the questions and explained how to find the information and why you want it, the clerk will go off and get one of the other clerks to help him try to find Garcia, and then come back and tell you there's no such man. Of course, I may lose my bet, but according to the law of average, I will not. Now, if you're wise, you will not bother to explain your assistant that Corriego is indexed under the C's, not in the K's, but you will smile very sweetly and say, "Never mind," and go look it up yourself. And this incapacity for independent action, this oral stupidity, this infirmity of the will, this unwillingness to cheerfully catch hold and lift, these are the things that put pure socialism so far into the future. If men will not act for themselves, what will they do when the benefits of their effort is for all? A first mate with knotted club seems necessary, and the dread of getting the bounce Saturday night holds many a worker to his place. Advertise for a stenographer, and 9 out of 10 who apply can neither spell nor punctuate, and do not think it is necessary to. Can such a one write a letter to Garcia? "You see that bookkeeper," said the foreman to me in a large factory. "Yes, what about him?" "Well, he's a fine accountant, but if I'd send him uptown on an errand, he might accomplish the errand. On the other hand, might stop at 4 saloons on the way, and when he got to Main Street would forget what he had been sent for. Can such a man be entrusted to carry a message to Garcia?" We have recently been hearing much Malden sympathy expressed for the downtrodden denizens of the sweatshop, and the homeless wanderer searching for honest employment, and with it all often go many hard words for the men in power. Nothing is said about the employer who grows old before his time, in a vain attempt to get frowsy near to well to do intelligent work, and his long patient striving after help that does nothing but loaf when his back is turned. In every store and factory there's a constant weeding out process going on. The employer is constantly sending away help that has shown their incapacity to further the interests of the business, and others are being taken on. No matter how good times are, this sorting continues. Only if times are hard and work is scarce, the sorting is done finer. But out and forever, out the incompetent and unworthy go. It is the survival of the fittest. Self-interest prompts every employer to keep the best of those who can carry a message to Garcia. I know one man of really brilliant parts who has not the ability to manage a business of his own, and yet who is absolutely worthless to anyone else, because he carries with him constantly the insane suspicion that his employer is oppressing or intending to oppress him. He cannot give orders, and he will not receive them. Should a message be given to him to take to Garcia, his answer would probably be, "Take it yourself." Tonight this man walks the streets looking for work, the wind whistling through his threadbare coat. No one who knows him dare employ him, for he is regular firebrand of discontent. He is impervious to reason, and the only thing that can impress him is the toe of a thick-soled No. 9 boot. Of course I know that no one so morally deformed is no less to be pitied than a physical cripple. But in our pitying, let us drop a tear, too, for the men who are striving to carry on great enterprise, whose working hours are not limited by whistle, and whose hair is fast turning white through the struggle to hold in line dowdy indifference, slipshod imbecility, and the heartless ingratitude which, but for their enterprise, would be both hungry and homeless. Have I put the matter too strongly? Possibly I have, but when all the world has gone a-slumming, I wish to speak a word of sympathy for the man who succeeds, the man who, against great odds, has directed the efforts of others, and having succeeded, finds there's nothing in it, nothing but bare board and clothes. I have carried a dinner pail, and worked for a day's wages, and I've also been an employer of labor, and I know there is something to be said on both sides. There is no excellence per se in poverty. Rags are no recommendation, and all employers are not rapacious and high-handed, any more than all poor men are virtuous. My heart goes out to the man who does his work when the boss is away, as well as when he is at home, and the man who, when given a letter for Garcia, quietly takes the missive without asking idiotic questions, and with no lurking intention of chucking into the nearest sewer, or doing aught else but deliver it, never gets laid off, nor has to go on strike for higher wages. Civilization is one long, anxious search for such individuals. Anything such a man asks shall be granted. He is wanted in every city, town, and village, in every office, shop, store, and factory. The world cries out for such. He is needed, and needed badly, the man who can carry a message to Garcia. It is time now for the people on earth to begin preparing for the planned changes in earnest. Many prophecies have been given to you, so many as to be confusing. This has made it possible for most to do nothing, because how could they prepare for so many different possibilities? It is imperative to begin with the most basic steps. Consider what are your most basic needs of man in the particular climatic region that you live in. Where you are with winter coming in would be food, warmth, shelter, and water. If warmth should be critical, it should be addressed. Let's take a hypothetical example of an earth change, disaster. Suppose there was an especially severe winter storm in your area. This would be a storm that involved high winds, extreme cold, and quantities of blowing and drifting snow. The electrical power would, of course, be cut off. Even if gas was available, it would be unavailable to you unless there was a gas-powered fireplace. Without electricity, you could not cook on your electric stove. There would be no electric lights. The streets would be impassable, and probably telephone lines would be out. So you could contact no one. What would be your plan? Have you even thought of one possibility through to this extent? I suggest that you have at least basic emergency supplies available at home, or perhaps in your auto, as you are seldom anywhere without it being close by. A camp stove with fuel, some canned or dehydrated food, sleeping bag, and most of all, water. Be sure all is in working order. Test everything to make sure you know how to use it. See that all parts are there. Know what it is that you would need to do. Watch your weather forecasts and be aware that any potential storm can be strengthened and steered. Instruments are in place and in use with the sophistication to do this. The harp. Inasmuch as we cannot interfere, we cannot protect you from this possibility. Of course, this discussion is centered on only one of the many possibilities. You may expect that these to be happening around the planet as the equipment is tested in order to understand its capabilities before coming up with a planned sequence of scenarios to help them achieving their goals. Check your food supplies. Long-keeping winter vegetables are a wise investment, and do cook them to learn how. For most of you, you've fallen into the prepared food trap. Available lake or river water could be frozen, and is seldom pure enough to drink. Water storage is wise, and even that will not stay pure without special care. A camping purified pump is available with extra filters. Considering adding a first aid kit, change of clothing, etc. I strongly suggest that you take stock, make a plan, and actually put together a workable short-term emergency kit and have it in place. Once that is completed, then add a long-term necessities on a regular basis. Once this is accomplished, you can then turn your attention to the business at hand. There was an old typing class exercise. Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country. It would seem to me that this is the most appropriate now. But in coming to the aid of the country, one must put him or herself in a position of confidence, so that in a crisis attention can be turned outward to those in need rather than scrambling to meet one's own personal needs. In closing our first session, I would remind you that the days of greater chaos are drawing closer in ascending quickness. Let us continue these sessions so that our clarity may increase and our messages may become truly a guiding light in the darkening of the days ahead. Sometimes it is necessary for the darkness to descend before people can be aware of a light that has been shining all along. Thus shall be coming together the true family of light bearers, serve to vanquish the these of those with the dark intentions. Always remember things work together to bring forth that which was planned long ago, for God's plans cannot be thwarted. The duration and complexity of events can be altered if there is a faltering of faith and action on the part of those that have been placed in stations of service. None are placed who do not have the ability to accomplish their missions. Some will falter and perhaps even fail. That, of course, is a possibility, but backups are in place and things will move forward in divine order. If you trust the knowledge that there is indeed an overall plan, a larger picture, and that it will succeed, then your own courage and faith will be less likely to falter. Trust the plan and pay no attention to the day-to-day details. This knowingness will be your rock in which to lean your touchstone of faith. Let us begin on this new day in a quest of a new day. The people of your planet sink further into the morass of depression and suppression. There's nothing but doom and gloom reported all around them. For a lack of vision of light, all appears to be fading into darkness. The focus of attention on the devils of the dark doings does not resolve the issue. In order for light to triumph over darkness, there must be a vision of the light that translates into a recognizable reality. Let us use the birth of the United States as an example. Though we cannot cover the details, we can look at the process as it is known. There were those who came together to envision something that was different than what was currently being experienced by the planetary inhabitants. No one person brought forth a vision. It was a composite of the inspirations that were but pieces of the whole. The process must be repeated again. There are those who believe that you should return to what you had before. Let us say that even that would not resolve the issues at hand. The founding fathers did not have instant communication, the Internet, exotic surveillance methods, under and above sea devices, as well as horrendous weapons of destruction which would to deal. You have allowed these to be created, and though you long to return to a simpler time, you will either tame these or they will destroy you. You must look past the need to merely survive the methods of trickery designed to annihilate you and dream what you would have instead of the chaos of darkness. It is as simple as that. For as long as you choose to merely understand and only survive the onslaughts of the oppressors, you are sinking deeper into the morass. You will only rise to the top with a new vision. We cannot give you that vision. The Book of Spiritual Laws provides some guidelines. However, the vision must be simple to be powerful. It must be visual in its simplicity so that the people now surrounded in darkness can literally be struck with its beauty and feel called to its simplicity and clarity. How do you do this? Small group cannot do it. A nucleus must come together. And as they begin the process, others of vision will be drawn to it, in fact, literally sent. The time for the beginning this project is not a convenient time later, but now. There is no time to be wasted if you are to accomplish this. To tarry will only make it more difficult and bring more suffering to the already oppressed. The window will close in literally weeks if it is not begun. I know you are caught up in the process of illuminating the details of the chaos, but what has that done to stop it? Can you actually see anything happening to change the speed of the decline? Then you must change your perspective. Look in the opposite direction. Are you part of the problem by observing it, or can you become part of the solution by looking for the building blocks of what you want instead? Begin in your meditations to ask, who would serve well in this project? This is not an esoteric process for people who are looking to give a lip service and stand on the sidelines and observe. This is for the visionary realists that may never actually observe the extent of the work they do now until the very end. These people will be able to look beyond the chaos and recognize the opportunity. I suppose you might say these are people with one foot in each world, who can look into both without losing their balance. Once you start looking for them, you will find them, coming into your experience in ways that may seem too unusual to be accidental. Meet in groups of 3, 7s, and 12s. This is the most important step to be taken now. Know that all help possible will be given on request. Many ideas will flow through, but those of value will take root, and the dream will become real. But first it must be conceived before it can be born. You need not feel total responsibility for any phase, only for the initial promotion of the idea. The hour is desperate, and the plans of God hinge upon the people of service. The awareness of the need for change is well established in the consciousness of many. Now the vision must be planted, that it may sprout and come to fruition. May your day be blessed with the love that is yours, for you are love in manifestation. It is your job and your privilege to focus it, that God may stand forth in freedom and truth in the experience of His beloved children. It is our hope that the process being initiated will bring together a nucleus of such compatibility as to be a cohesive cell, which shall mimic the bodily process of cell division. Within such a process, the spread would be quite amazing. Remember, a babe begins with the combining of just 2 cells and becomes a being of trillions in a matter of 9 months. By the law of attraction, a universal law, this is entirely possible. Of course, the nature of the babe is determined by the birthing combination. It's the characteristics of these that shall have a profound effect upon the end project. Do not worry. Ones that should not be included won't be, but there are many that are appropriate. Just relax and allow the process to flow, which doesn't mean that this phase is yet complete. Indeed, it's just beginning. Just setting minds to consider such a possibility will not bring commitment. You are most important in the birthing. It is those with receptive hearts that are willing to begin the process that are important. The character, openness to act beyond the confines of the present moment, the ability to make and keep commitments, the love of fellow man beyond themselves, the desire to rise above the trees to see the forest. These are the critical components for these parents. Through this process, the awakening of man once again to the family of man is possible. The ability of man to transcend the present self-made dilemma into a new concept of experience will bring about a change, not only individually, but to all, and a ripple effect will be felt throughout the universe and cosmos. I know that this seems like a big assignment to begin from just 2, but each new child is also a miracle. Its beginning is hardly auspicious, just a mass of dividing cells with no apparent organization into a miniature babe. But at a miraculous moment, the appearance of miniature is there. Inspiration shall begin the change with the focus group consciousness. The project assignment is that each new cell continues to divide. How exactly is this going to work? The first meets with 2, then each meets again with 2 others, then each again meets again with 2 others until there are 7. 3 plus 2 equals 5 plus 2 equals 7. Then that groups meet, and the 4 additional split and create their own 7. Now the originals at that point can again begin a new cycle or drop out. The more times each individual repeats the process, the more the growth cycle accelerates. Can you see how the original organization can grow quickly without bringing great danger to the project or to the individuals? At this point, it is only the dream that is being promulgated. Then the babe takes shape at the critical point of the greater group awareness. Then the plan changes and the organs, so to speak, began to take shape for the different functions necessary for the creation of the dream. Since the focus is on the creation of a new experience, armaments are not a part of the picture unless danger is present. Focus is not resistance. Become forward movement into change is not factored into the detection process as presently set up by the oppressors. I shall leave you to consider what you've been told so far. Fear in the heart puts a damper on the appreciation of the wonderful gift of life. It also hardens the belief of separation and causes those wrapped up into it become deadened and wooden in their ability to perceive changes going on around them. It's like a cloak being wrapped around the awareness. In this way, the darkness wraps its insidious plans of subjugation and annihilation around your fellow earth beings. Now begins in earnest the movement of the light to bring an end to this situation. As with all things, it begins with the process of thought and desire to bring an end to it. In this case, the subtle, modest beginnings will go unnoticed. The opposing forces are planting their seeds of perceived invincibility everywhere. If this were real, they would not need to do so at the level of psychological campaign. Remember that humanity now numbers in the billions. That's an overwhelming number in itself. These are souls that are volunteering to be here for the benefit of this planet, and these beings have incarnated here for the purpose of experiencing the next rising, or at the least to assure its success. They shall not go unrewarded. Remember that this is a play. It's difficult to get this understanding across, but in a play all you have to do is change the lines to change the scope of the play. Well, you are a fragment of the whole of creation and begin changing the lines of the play. Is this an oversimplification of the situation? It would appear so from your perspective, but indeed it is simple as that. This project involves the formation of the group entity that can change the lines or add a new character, however you want to visualize the process. Remember, visualization involves pictures. The words that you use in your contacts with those who might become the critical parents of this entity will respond to that which stirs their imagination and their emotions. Learn from your successful political elections. Which appeal to the emotions before logic? What works for this instrument of the opposition with the people can work for you also. The logical approach brings lots of rhetoric, but it is that which brings visualization and emotion that incites action. What is wanted here is action, not reaction. Resorting to the use of arms against the plan for overwhelming mankind is doomed from the start. Yet the keeping of the guns by citizens of this country means their freedom is not yet gone. When those are taken, then you will see a real overwhelming realization among your people of the gravity of what surrounds them. Thus the timing is again stressed. We do not mean to belabor this, but there are windows of opportunity that must be used for our advantage, for these offer the greater chance of success with the least amount of suffering for the greatest number. Insofar as grieving in regard to those that are suffering, let me assure you that the numbers of souls incarnating on this planet increases the difficulty of their plans. Note that I avoid using certain names, and you would be wise to do that. After all, within your circle, the exact entity of the forces can be assumed as known. Their role is well known to them before they incarnate. They don't remember it now, of course, but they come to assure the success of the process of our mission. Does that assure you of the importance of the Earth in the total scheme of the grand picture? I would think so. In the initial meetings of small groups, no one visualization is likely to appeal to all. So one suggestion shall be given as guidance. Ask, and it shall be given. A composite will emerge that will provide the appeal when participation reaches a critical stage. This diversity will aid in the masking of the process. You are well connected, so do not be concerned about this aspect. Use the visualization of dominoes standing on end and arrange in a pattern so that one is made to fall, all will follow in rapid progression. It has great application to our meaning and bringing an identifying tie to their planned process. It is resistance to recognizing the situation and more resistance to being responsible for the changing of it, as well as the induced feeling of the overwhelm that blocks the participation of the majority. The willingness to be responsible for personal conduct and change the focus of perception is buried within the busy, frantic schedules of daily existence. Individuals finding solace in their excuses for not confronting the growing signs of coming oppression, breaking down this line of resistance and drawing as many of these into the new pattern of life remains the goal. Those of the dark plan have set their focus to overwhelm any human beings with plans to resist and have preconceived plans ready to move to the crushing of the resistance. However, there are none for the coming of a new vision. That leaves that opening available to us. In fact, the ideal opening. Our plan is not to fix the old, but to create the new. There will always be the repetition of certain ingrained habitual thoughts, hopefully not to the point of nausea. The skill of speaking, and indeed even thinking, discreetly on the subject of those with the plans contrary to the will of creation, will aid in helping those to bring the style of referred to them in their usage. The more variety in the application of presenting the subject being discussed, the better. It is easy for focus groups to get right to the point, but this will not serve in the long run. It might be appropriate to point out that a linear progression within the scope of this project would not always be apparent. Divine order is the order of the day, and divine order does not follow man's idea of sequence at all. You have to set up certain unspoken subconscious rules to give sequential order to your experience. The forces of God do not have to follow sequence to have organization. Therefore, it's important that once the process is initiated to a critical point, then you must trust in its completion of itself without the ego control so familiar to each of you. This is imperative, lest you monkey wrench your own dream. Our cooperative effort, and that's what it is, must begin, continue at the end with focus on a completed goal. It's the composite of dreams of what a utopian world would be like, one that would truly like to experience that will bring this to pass. This is the opposite of the resistance that is expected. How much time do each of you spend in this utopian daydreaming process? Survival daydreams are more the norm in the group that we are depending upon for this formative process. Granting such a thing as easy, earth-compatible energy sources are part of that dream. For luxuries of easy living are not appealing sacrifices for freedom of oppression. This is what is automatically supposed will be the cost of such change. Would a new paradigm of experience be without comforts? Different comforts, probably, but I doubt anyone will feel any regrets for giving up the present situation. This, again, is the resist or be shoved backwards thought process that must be abandoned. That you want what will make your experience even better is a given, and it should be assumed. It must also be assumed that there must be a short period necessary to endure in order for this change to happen. But it can be shorter than you might imagine. When this pivotal project is accomplished, our help is not only allowed, it is mandated. It is the beginning think tank discussion that will bring about the beginning of the change of expectation to an ever-expanding group. Think of a stone tossed into a pond. The ripples reach out to and affect a greater and greater area. We call it a critical point. You referred to it as the 100th monkey theory. Think of a counter-thought group as having to send the ripples in from the outside to the middle. Remember that they are creating what is not in accordance with the laws of God. Their concentration is toward containment, while your focus is toward the rippling outward. Now, which one of you think works better? When these ripples meet, what happens? If we are using the same pond water, which one is likely to overwhelm the other? Especially if the stone that is dropped is becoming larger and larger in what may be called interpreted to be slow motion. Remember, there are vibrational effects that are and will be brought into being that cannot be observed by you. Each time the thought pattern is focused towards a goal, it becomes further intensified. As it intensifies, it becomes more magnetic and attraction begins to build. You are not likely to surprise any of the contacts. What you are more likely to hear is that it has been in their thoughts already, but they just hadn't made the effort to follow through with its implication. The process will become appealing and challenging when you begin to dream of ways to use the mechanisms put in place for the use of those of opposite intentions. Doesn't that sound intriguing? Rather than destroy and resist, it might be possible to use some of what they have in their place for your own intentions. You have focusing powers that are capable of many things when there is group participation, and a few innovations of your own can be added. Remember the pipe that sends vibrations to the crops and fields? Ever wonder what else is capable of doing? You might be surprised. Even the sound embedded in Dan Carlson's music tapes for the growth of plants might be interesting in the presence of their focused vibrations. Just a thought or two about what you already have. The light begins to change its focus as the window changes in what may be considered depth. As layers of intentional activity will be added, the focus becomes more intense in the area on which it is aimed. Now this can be an advantage, as it can bring to the focus to a great clarity. That the cloak of darkness appears to you to be getting more intense can have its positive aspects. The closing of the noose is not as unobserved by the masses as you might think. Intuitive feelings are becoming aroused. The critical mass of awareness is being aroused, and the other side is well aware of this. Remember, there's a weak link within their plan. They are going to demand that their army of militia turn on their own people, indeed their own friends and family. That is the key point on which there will be reactions that they cannot predict. This allows openings in their plan. They seem minor to you in your consideration, but these can be used to great advantage, for sometimes a moment is all the focus of light may need. Ours will not be a plan of resistance, it will be a plan of lifting up of a vision into manifestation through the minds of many. When the picture of what has been carefully planned for them is repulsive enough to their imaginations, don't you think that they will turn with enthusiasm to a vision that thrills them? Remember, there will be those who will choose otherwise. There will be a division. There will be enough that have been either won over or will be lost in the desire of continuing to experience the menu which has been fed to them in the media barrage directed at them. This will be a point you will have to deal with, as will all that will join in this plan for transcending the decayed into the new birthing opportunity. All will not choose to join, and here you must recognize the free choice of experience given to each. It is not so much hardening of your heart toward them as an attitude of allowance. Remember, there is no death. Only the end of an experience, and eternity is incomprehensible. It is not for any of you to judge what the experience of each individual means to the completion within each soul. The soul draws to itself a composite and makes of these experiences patterns that dazzles the imagination. The dance of duality, darkness as light, as you will, are part of the play. You must not become disheartened at any time, for there will be those of you who will surprise you. It is for you to keep your eye on the vision and to watch it unfold into creation from your limited perspective. That, too, will be fascinating. How will you know? It will be difficult in the birthing phase, for in the beginning the process of a babe hardly looks like anything more than a maze of individual cells with no apparent organization. At the critical point, that miraculous changes into form. Then the challenges of preventing an abortion will become a dual focus. However, that too shall be handled. Remember this, as you begin to help yourselves, more and more cooperation for various forms of manifested light can assist in ways you and even I cannot imagine and may never be privy to know about. It is a focus on the vision that shall attract this assistance towards success. We can continue to present this information to you, but there also can be some discussion. Questions can be asked as long as they pertain to the process at this point. No divining allowed, just focus on one stage at a time. What your continuing role shall be as a plan unfolds will be revealed as each day arrives. There is no already existing vision except in a dim outline that is set up by the influence of the universal laws. At the time of filling in these outlines, those will be made known to the founding parents in very simplistic terms. KISS will be the order of the day for the entire project. How is that going to be possible? Within the contributions of the vision by many, trust the process. The planet is experienced on an entirely different level than it was when the founding fathers of the U.S. followed this same path. Note this time it was the founding parents, and that in itself is a raising of the level experience. Both energies shall be present, and it shall make for double energy focus. Though women know the last time and support it as allowed, theirs was not a contributory role except as an outside influence. Neither shall dominate, for the vision must move beyond such selfishness and bring upon a synergistic wholeness. At this point, you must not concern yourself with the manifestation of their plan. You know of it. You are expecting it, and so it must be ignored. Your focus must be on the moment and what is to be done. If that what you do now puts you in danger, perhaps you should begin laying plans for doing something different. Not yet in this moment, but soon. Perhaps this surface activity cycle is drawing to a close. It's only a suggestion to be considered, though you already have toyed with it. We leave it to your discretion. Corporate business will be allowed for activities that do not make big waves. Opportunities shall appear for your consideration. Travel shall be safe for a time yet. If you miss a plane or a flight is canceled, take it within your stride. There may be many reasons apparent in retrospect as why you were not to be on a particular mode of transportation. When travel is no longer safe, you will know. The focus of your intent now is to work within the activities of the parenting process. There is much being done to bring into concrete experience the truth of the statement that the unseen world is more real than the one is seen by the mass consciousness of the planet now. These concrete demonstrations of the nature of this unseen causal effect are not only stimulating awareness, but bringing forth the opportunity to use this knowledge to encourage the visioning of the process that together we are beginning to bring forth. How's that for talking all the way around the subject? It helps to bring it out of the realm of wishing into realization that there is a way to counter their methods without adopting them. The work is to be done is not at this third-dimensional level of resistance, but as I've emphasized before, at the causal level of creating what is another focus entirely. The reality of possibility of this process has already been demonstrated in fields that indicate these processes can be adopted and focused in accordance with what is needed. The already proven success of these theories adds the inspiration needed to bring forth the birthing activity. It is recommended that the messages be held for those who would be encouraged to join the birthing process in the immediate future. These people will quickly see the correlation, and of course some are already in the awareness of some or all of its contents. A basic awareness of both sides of the forces present is needed, and that information is available and necessary that it be known to those selected as the parents of this process. It is also a human weakness to assume that what is known to one is also known to all. Details are not necessary, but an overview would be helpful with an available catalog of well-documented information for those desiring a more comprehensive understanding in areas not familiar to them. The processes mentioned in the message are, of course, known to those engaged in this broad research, and these strive to be merely known, but not to create a situation that will bring public awareness. At that point, their existence is a threat to the powers that assume invincibility. These would then be in a precarious situation as the noose tightens. Their importance cannot be stressed enough. This is the reality check needed to assure the success of the understanding that these higher vibrational realities need to be pulled into the experience on this planet. As the message reveals, the comfort zone under threat can bring violent reactions, not only in circles of opposition, but among the general public. The opposition at its higher levels know that it is threatened by a possible collapse of its operation from the inside out. The mass consciousness is merely reacting in a Pavlov's dog fashion. Possibility thinking is not acceptable. Herein lies the need for careful movements within the project until the critical mass is reached. That is why the approach to the plan must be by word of mouth to known individuals, who then take the responsibility of approaching those who they know have the proper sympathetic awareness and desire to see the situation change. The ability to identify with the changes to be made at levels beyond the five senses of experience must be paramount in the beginning parenting process. It isn't the number of people involved at this stage, but the quality of the awareness that is important. The ability to possibly think, the openness to expansion of awareness, and the ability to assimilate and postulate into new synthesis, the known and unknown is of critical importance. In other words, choose carefully. With that step clearly in mind, the proliferation will take care of itself. The clarity of the first combinations will set the stage for the entire process. It is interesting that the power of thought has brought us to the meeting point of consciousness. This is a process of intent focused towards a mutual purpose. It is the bringing together of purposeful intent that is the magic of shared manifestation. It is evident in the perceived world that surrounds you in the positive and negative forms. Now that the plan is to raise that process to a higher level, to engage known processes to further your exploration in the process of manifestation. It's a matter of intention that brings forth the knowledge to be able to do this from a vantage point of awareness of the essential elements to ensure completion. This need not be done through blind faith in an unknown process. This would encourage an attrition rate that would ensure failure. It's a matter of making the data available to the conscious awareness and allowing it to percolate. The inspiration for application will come forth into understanding. Manifestation is not a haphazard, lucky combination of synchronistic meetings. There are specific already existing procedures in place available to be used. It is a matter of bringing these purposely into the awareness, and then the creative imaginations will trigger the appropriate applications. The luck of the draw is simply too risky to be relied on in this project. Here again, the stress remains on the careful choices for the parenting operation. It is not desired to belabor this point, but is awesomely important. Ours is the most important combination of massaging your consciousness and
stimulating your concerns without bringing forth panic. We are finding this to be a skill that is most rewarding. It is indeed bringing upon the desired results. You are not just the only ones which this process is being applied. Just know that all that can be done from this level is being done. It is in the actual movement from the point of inertia that will allow this beyond-the-scene help to aid in bringing forth the manifestation of the plan. Remember, the birthing process begins with the dance of desires and culminates in an apparent miracle through processes that can go on for most of the part beneath the level of conscious awareness. These processes are not haphazard, but proceed with exacting synthesis of multiple complicated interactions. If there was an original plan for this commonplace happening, then don't you think there's a plan for one as important as this one is also in place? If you do not need to be aware of the functions relating to the birth process to a child to complete itself, then do you need to know all the processes that will happen in this project? The human birthing process would not happen if certain physical actions did not take place to initiate its beginning. What is being emphasized here is that you understand you will not shepherd the whole process to its conclusion. Neither do we want you to think you will be left out of the project once it is initiated. Indeed, you will be included in ways that are not in the most freewheeling of your imagination at the moment. In this case, we encourage you to trust the process and continue to be available, for you all are needed. You did not sign on for a short-term assignment. Let us continue now by moving on to other subjects that are, of course, related. It is important to keep a balance in the stretch of your understanding of the commitment to the transcendence of the planet and its inhabitants. Know that this is hardly a single-handed commitment, but the agreed-upon commitment of a countless number of beings who are not strangers to the process. In this level, the energy of this particular planet has reached a level of heaviness that is challenging, to say the least. But after all, you must know that all of you thrive on challenge, and this is no exception. However, this time it is not a game, for failure would have serious implications beyond the mere suffering of incarnated beings. This, of course, is known to you at your deepest levels, so it's not meant as a threat. In this case, we are allowing greater discretion to assist, and we are stretching it to the utmost in order to initiate the beginnings of this project. Much planning has gone into the methodology, with contingencies covered, for the art of improvisation is not limited to third-dimensional experience. It is known that a certain lack of sincerity exists within the realms of those who present themselves as leading the resistance to the planned changes. In this case, either these will find themselves involved in other activities, or you'll have a distinct knowingness regarding the appropriateness of their inclusion. The identity of some of these might come as a surprise, but again, you are connected to a point now that you will know in a moment when it is necessary to be cautious. Most of what is included today in this contact is known to you. It is yet not possible to reveal details for two reasons. The proper sequences are not yet in place, and this line of communication is not at a level for those to come through. All possible is being done to prepare this last phase so that there will be a coordination of these elements. Again, we ask your patience and that you trust the process, redundant as it may seem. As you say, just hang in there. The situation is this. Time is the primary element used to recognize placement within the third dimension. However, the veil between dimensions is thinning. As the awareness grows of the availability of the fourth and even fifth dimension processes for usage in this third-dimensional realm, this veil will begin to thin even more. The new focus might include elements of the higher dimensions. How to do this? Thought moves between dimensions as long as the thought is within those dimensional parameters. Third-dimensional parameters allow for interfering with development of others. It allows for the forcing of one will upon another. Above that dimension, all are allowed freedom to develop without this interference. Personal responsibility is the keynote of existence. Contrary to the mass consciousness appearance of the lack of development at this level, it's there, simply smothered by the barrage of mind control techniques. However, those techniques are not successful as it might appear. If these were, then the massive physical control that is being put into place would not be necessary. If these were, then there would be no problem of what to do about what they see as overpopulation. There would be masses of people falling like lemons into the sea. What is becoming a rising tide is the groundswell of feeling of people longing for this personal freedom. Through the moving of jobs from your country, people have found that they can create for themselves new opportunities, however nebulous they may be within the communications dream of non-production. This success within planned failure has tweaked the creative urge within many, thus the proliferation of home-based businesses. It is the glimmering of personal successes that has sparked a surge with even the most oppressed of the beings in your country, meaning the welfare recipients. This information has not stayed within the boundary of this country. It has always been alive in countries of great poverty. If it were not, more would have starved long ago. This longing for freedom will be fanned into a blaze by dream and simplicity. It will be this new conception that will live the spirits of those who will hear, and the lift will be literal. The inner prayer of the longing heart shall be answered, and the reaction to it will not be stopped. It cannot be reached by third-dimensional methods, for those who try to apply them will simply be left as helpless as was the dark plan for the people. Once the critical point of awareness is reached, support of the new paradigm will take the planet forward as a whole. The ascension of the New Age dreamers is one of the individual flights into the clouds, but this shall be a planetary change. Your Bible mentions two standing in a field and only one is taken. The person who wholeheartedly believes in the dream shall accompany the dream. The parents of this dream must have the understanding. The third-dimensional parameters must be transcended, and thought must be focused into the higher expectations of a new dimension. Trust in the personal responsibility of its citizens will be the key to the foundations of that new perception. It is a password, so to speak, for the entry into this experience. Honesty and forthrighteousness are practiced without question.
Your 23rd Psalm translation misrepresented this by the word righteousness, which was given the meaning of judgmental attitude, in particular, the actions of others.
Instead, it was meant that each was to be responsible to live rightly within the personal focus of their life attitudes and actions. This was the result in finding the games of inappropriate action will not work if no one else will play by these rules. There can be no victims and no martyrs if no one will play the game. This may sound naive considering the chaos around you, but that's the difference. That is the leap that must be made to the assumption that humanity is a critical mass that is ready to assume this shift in perception. The profit motive at the expense of all others has not led to utopia. Man in true perspective is a radiant being, meaning created to give outward expression of the Creator's love. Not to live as a usurper with only the intent of drawing all towards himself as depicted by material experience. The experiment of this has left him hollow and unfulfilled. This shall be the opportunity to experience what will satisfy and fill his heart cup to running over. How can you paint this vision with the color of emotion that shall magnetize all that hear it and catch up into the movement toward it? Intent shall be the alchemical ingredient,
and the Creator's love of his children shall spread butter upon the path
to convert the old adage to a different focus. It can be done. It shall be done. On that you can place your life's focus and trust. The etheric winds of change are in motion and the momentum is building. Do you think there is anything that can stand against the Creator of the game in the first place? It cannot be so. Welcome to the winning side. Now, isn't that a wonderful greeting? This seems like a logical place on which to end this exchange of thought. Open your hearts and feel the love that is given to you for your trust and acceptance of our combined path in this marvelous adventure of adventures. How will we top this one? It is not for us to know yet. The movie The Siege contained heavy subliminal messaging. Just one point. Remember that it used the Constitution to resolve the difficulty. However, their intention is to use executive orders, so there is no Constitution, for will there be a judge with authority to stand against a dark organization? The realization of that will quickly demoralize the people. That was another sleeping pill of greater magnitude than you realize. Asking for shielding and for discernment was quite effective, and it will be most helpful to use it as the situation progresses. It is something that will need to be done by each, and not something that can be done for a group by one person. Again, we go back to the law of individual responsibility. It will be necessary for you to know that the planetary consciousness is changing. Let us compare this to a breathing pattern. It is as though the planet is changing its steady intervals of inhale and exhale to an irregular pattern of a deeper inhale as compared to the exhale of gathering of internal energies. That is an area of our discussion that has not been covered. The planet too shall participate in the plan to change the situation. Remember that all manifestation at all levels is the result of the projection of thought into malleable ethers, your name for creative potential. And that thought is interactive within itself in the ability to maintain balance. You can perceive that you are beginning to experience a focus of change in a cooperative energy vibration. This has the potential to synchronize the inhabitant consciousness to blend with that of the planet as a whole. Perhaps this will allow you to begin to understand why we belabor the point of importance of the parenting cell being of the consciousness that will produce this blending vibratory ratio. There'll be a quickening of the latent emotional connections to the planetary consciousness, not to the suffering on her part because of the mankind's infliction of selfishness and greed, but to the area of consciousness desire for change to a new and different experience. Remember, this is not the first civilization to experience here, and you do not know the history of these previous scenarios.
Just as you experience and learn, so also is this repeated in the evolution of the planet as a whole. Here you begin to see the damming up of energy that is occurring now. When a hole in this dam is released in a direction that the whole of this energy can blend into cohesively, then there can be a release that will flush away the infection and bring about healing of marvelous proportion.
Just as the journey begins with the first step, so also this begins with a tiny hole in the dam by the formation of the first cells of the birthing process. It is not yet clear exactly what the planetary involvement will be, as it depends upon the blend of energy that the parent's part of the process that is contributed by humanity. It's the key that unlocks the whole of the project. We, of course, have observed various scenarios of possible energy combinations similar to your computer projections and find that each brings forth a vastly different combination of possible reactions. Each leads to a similar end conclusion, not only in different combinations of similar elements, actions, and reactions, but in different elements, actions, and reactions entirely. Therefore, definite conclusions cannot be made even from this perspective. Isn't that interesting? We think so. Thus, once the selections are made and the first cells begin to act in the creation of the possible dream scenarios, it will still not be possible to project much clarity of it until the dream scenario, becomes clear in the minds of these groups as a whole. Can we guide this process based on our test projections? We wish we could, but that would be an unacceptable interference. In this case, the guidance will have to come from a higher source than we are. There is little doubt that the highest of high is most interested in what is happening here, and that source will be available for the exact help that's needed. These miniature planetary think tanks will be allowed to play with possibilities, but the request for high source help will no doubt have much powerful input in the completion of this process. I can assure you that this level knows mankind to its very core and will guide the process, but there must first be the movement beyond desire into active thought projection for the purpose of manifesting this new experience. After the creative dreams of possibilities, then follows the purposeful focus process to place the skeletal outline into place. The great reward will be the painting in of the details of the experience of what you have created. The joy of this part of the process will be wonderful indeed. The mantra of this project must be, "In God we trust." You cannot trust manifested mass conscious beliefs. The seeds of death for your fellow human beings are beyond the planted seed stage and into sprouting and rapid growth. There has been one salvation from this trap. It is in the service to and total trust in the way through this situation. There's not a way out. There's only the way through. The subtle difference is not apparent, but it is indeed of great importance. Out implies resistance. Through implies movement through toward a greater goal lying beyond. Just as one does not get out of a mountain pass, but must move through it, so must you identify with the subtle different application. Mankind falls into the dream of a great leader being raised up in consciousness to lead it out of this or any other dilemma. Cannot be. It must be by the inspiration of visualization of a way of life that fills the empty void of their consciousness that the political, scientific, and religious dogma of the past and the present has brought to each. The realization that only their own desire to participate, following a personal conscious decision, will lead them through this experience to what awaits beyond. Man's an adventurous being, loving the challenge. This desire for personal adventure has been diverted into the false desire for safety, the assurance of limited risk, of insurance. Remember the Navy posters appealed to the young men by offering the adventure of sailing to unknown ports, only end up with the wooden guns guarding a metal-faced enclosure such as did Bill Cosby? Military combat is represented as an adventurous activity, but is not on a personal responsibility level. Each activity is planned out not by the individual, but by the layers of officers. Yet military heroes are those in the moment of need, act on their own to accomplish a deed at great risk to themselves. For the public at large, risk is left to such things as the risk of death on snowboards, skiing on possible avalanche areas, swimming in possible riptide areas, climbing steep mountains, etc. These too shall be cut off to further stifle the soul into greater limitation. The pent-up feelings are then channeled into destructive outlets of wars, gangs, rape, pillage, and other activities contrary to the purpose of manifested life. This leads mankind from its original purpose of finding the connection and the path of return to the Creator. You already know this, so what's the point of this discussion? This is so that you might recognize the feelings that are prevalent, especially among young people. What change is experienced when you remember there's no plan to lead the human experience in the opposite direction, into the promised land of true personal adventure, in dealing with the realms of personal self? This is what is being experienced in the greater manifested reality. It's but an enlarged mirror of what is actually taking place within. The identified 300 are but 300 focused tricks of those distorted egos given free rein through the manipulation of their minds. All effort has been made to assist individuals on the personal level to realize this. Now the manifestation of the evil, misunderstanding, and misuse must be dealt with by the extreme methods of bringing forth a movement to halt this process on the same level as has been achieved by the misused egos of the Dark Ones. This has occurred by the process of the ego empowering itself into areas contrary to its purpose. This process has reached proportions of imbalance which endangers the integrity of the galaxy universe. Extreme measures have been sanctioned by the Creator to bring this back into balance. Because of the love of the Creator for these fragments, all possible means to return these into equilibrium are being used. Some shall be indeed denied in manifested life experience for what you would term long periods of time, as many opportunities to turn from their focus of separation have been given them. Others shall be continued their lessons in other situations, for they are but innocently duped during the experience they choose by incarnating here. Those who have true intent and purpose shall move through the experience by their choices of participation within bringing forth this manifestation of the new creation scenario. This group-focused demonstration will carry a power of transformation that will be thrilling indeed. It's a gift of the Creator. This shall be a blessing and a gift of grace through a profound love focused beyond all previous experience. Through this shall the raising of the planet occur. Its transcendence shall ripple through all of creation, allowing new levels of the experience. The transcending participants will enjoy the rewards of participating within its completion. The mercy and grace available within the loving focus of the Creator is included within the infinity of His love. The finite mind is unable to fathom this, but there shall be an expansion of the ability to encompass this to a greater degree within the focus of human experience and expression within the changing of this dimension. Even the dimensions shall change through this scenario so that all consciousness shall be thrilled by the new experience and be further awakened. Now does the greeting welcome to the winning side carrying new meaning? Indeed. The intent of these messages is to deepen the resolve and give all possible support to the task upon your plates. May your hearts be inspired to continue your devoted participation with the blessing of all beings of light involved in this project. Your Bible has a saying, "And she pondered this in her heart." An apt way of putting it. May you open your consciousness to experience the love that surrounds, inspires, and protects you on this day. Indeed. We find it interesting that the forces of evil are putting forth a dual effort. The ethnic and racial differences between individuals and groups are being stressed and agitated, while at the same time you're being forced into a one world of government. This, of course, is not without planning. It is for the purpose of creating chaos and confusion within the psyche. In actuality, This serves our purposes also. It is a great deal easier to create changes from chaos than it is to bring upon it within a stable, static environment. There are a great many planets that are highly developed within adaptation and adoption of the universal laws. If this is such a wonderful state, then the question is, why focus the opportunity of transcendence of such magnitude as being hinged upon the process through a planet that is in gross experience of this one? The answer is that this is the chaotic energy that offers the greatest potential for this particular process. That which you call God has not created your dilemma, but it is His creation, and certainly He can participate in the potential that is offered, much to your benefit, we might add. We are offering as many perspectives to this situation as possible so that you might have as much understanding as possible. It's necessary that you rise above the stressful awareness that much suffering is being experienced by many of your fellow human beings that have incarnated upon this planet now. This is so that you can perceive from a level of perception that will allow you to have a God's eye view from which to conceive your plans. The conception of the one world government by the opposition also serves its purpose. Many of the incarnate beings have been put aside the nationalistic views they once had and are thinking in terms of a global inclusiveness. The project plan will be one that will appeal more than those of the USA. Of necessity, it must be a plan of planetary scope. Necessarily, its beginning is focused here in the United States, but the total picture must be of a global intent. There will be a particular intensity of chaos that will be in a pivotal time for change, either for them or for us. Thus, the timing for creation and birthing into the awareness of the plan or dream, as we previously called it, critical. In the nebulous, unformed stage of the process, the word dream seems more appropriate in a plan that indicates something already in thought form. This is not yet the case, and also keeps it in the mindset of a more playful and creative format. It does not carry the heavy responsibility emphasis for the participating groups. It is intended to promote a maximum of possibility thinking in the broadest possible ways. In the beginning phases, there must be no thoughts or boundaries. Remember that we are not to consider the actions or reactions of the other side. We are going to be dreaming within little known possibilities. Therefore, all things are possible. The contingent plans of the other side can only work in their own reality. You are going to be setting up in a reality that is far outside anything that they've ever considered. It is the level of created that we are striving to encourage you to reach. This is creativity that will supersede and stretch beyond the current reality. Can you do this? Of course. Why do you think we tried out possible contingency plans? These are available for you in the etheric field, not for the intention of you to choose one of them, but merely as beginning points for you to exercise your imaginations. Remember, your imagination is the entry point to the mind of God, which is infinite potentiality. The invocation of His presence when two or more are present is true to a degree you limited ones have not yet perceived. Any preconceived ideas individual members of these groups may have considered are to be used only as beginning points. No applicable possibility has yet been conceived. This may challenge some egos in the early stages of participation, but this is a critical time in the education of egos. The observer parts of the third dimensional existence must be encouraged to enter into the imaging process, and through this, they will experience their true purpose. Even the ego will find joy within this process, for in experiencing its true role, it shall desire to experience more of this joy. Indeed, it is not an entity of separate identity, but it is a very active aspect of the human experience that has received far too much emphasis within the complex union of soul extension energies. Yet we must credit this distortion with the creation of this planetary opportunity. So from that perspective, this activity is contributed in its own unique way. God can turn anything into a purposeful synergy to benefit the whole. More faith on the part of mankind to the reality of this truth would be of great assistance to them in this project. The understanding of how individuals experiencing this incarnation fit into the cosmic scheme of things is a little like reading a corporate organization chart. However, this one would be amazingly complex for you to understand in totality, for it does not follow the logical responsibility pattern of heavy at the top. Can you conceive of equality from the top to bottom of something that has no top and no bottom? Stretches the logic of it, does it not? Does it make any sense? Of course it does when linear sequence is not an essential parameter. How could a group accomplish anything without having sequence being necessary? Quite well, I can assure you. How can things manifest without a beginning or an end? Amazingly, you think it must begin as it appears in the formation of a baby. What appears to be the process in the third dimension begins in the etheric. The unseen part of the process is a complete being and already exists at the moment of conception. For completeness in one dimension, it manifests in your reality. A flower was not brought into manifestation from a plant cell, but was conceived in its wholeness, not from appearance, but also in the process. Will your group be responsible for the conception of the process of what needs to be accomplished to change this earthly dilemma? Why do you think so many etheric beings are present? We are here to help you with the unseen processes needed. Once the skeletal outline is in place in a form that will bring the desired results, then you will not be able to imagine the activities that will take place, all focused towards a splendid moment of creation. Are you being supported through this process? You better believe it. But it all hangs on the initiation by humanity of activity creating its own destiny through changing its perception of the ideal. In fact, because of the chaos and confusion in the creation of an idea. May the energy that awaits the initiation of the process in small part fill your experience. You are much appreciated, and all possible support encompasses you today. Be of good cheer as you go about your seemingly mundane tasks. Nothing in the lives of humans shall remain mundane for long.
The energies as projected by those that would ensnare the inhabitants of Earth in their plans to change the destiny of this planet moves in ever-tightening circles as they attempt to incorporate the wheels within the wheels that constitute a partial understanding of the cycles of creation.
They are oh so careful to check each cog so there are none out of sequence. Linear thought is still the basis of their game, for there is no spiraling towards evolutionary change. Evolution is the term given to change in your language. There is a lack of understanding what the process is. What are they evolving toward? The enslavement of the remaining population is the goal. But for what purpose? A stagnant utopia? What makes them think that the universe could or would support them in that process? To rebel against the process of creation is one possibility, but to maintain themselves outside the focus of creation would incorporate an ever-escalating process within its totality and is doomed to failure. To hijack a planet is one thing. To create an anti-universe is indeed grandiose, for there would be no other way. From where would that kind of energy come? Do they plan to hijack an entire universe? I doubt that what you call God is so impotent as to allow that. Again, I say welcome to the winning side. This may seem impossible to believe in view of the above comments. From one perspective, that kind of arrogance is humorous. Of course, it's not for those experiencing the day-to-day flexing of the muscles of their power and viewing it from the basis of the third-dimensional experience. To bring a transition in the human consciousness, the largest view possible is necessary for those who would envision this change. Perhaps change is not the best term, for it implies merely readjusting that which already exists. This has been tried before in other opportunities to outwit the adversary. Obviously, it didn't work, or you would not be facing the situation. This time, you must go a step farther in your refusal to play the game according to the rules. You must change your tactics completely so as to cause their plans to be as impotent as they have schemed to make you. You must transcend these plans. Much ado has been made for ascending and for rapture. Well, this indeed shall be our version of that, except Jesus will not do it for you. You must do more than claim to be a Christian. It will not be necessary to get your hands dirty in the blood of your enemy. Neither shall you be required to turn the other cheek and look away as he does, as he wills. For you shall have plans of your own that will employ God's methods that you have until now forgotten. The Armageddon of their vision shall never occur. There shall be an Armageddon, but it shall be played out on a different field, and there shall be no conflict as has been envisioned for you. Your desire for delivery and your will to thwart these puffed-up antagonists of creation shall be guided to fruition among paths of remembering. This shall bring forth the elements of the spiral of evolution that are missing from their carefully laid plans. Fear not, for you have on your side the energies that create solar systems, galaxies, universes, and cosmos, indeed all that is. Could you ask for more support? It's not that it has been lacking during the previous opportunities, but the cleverness and the focus of the antagonists have planned carefully to bring this action into plan point of implementation and at the moment of coinciding cycles. This, they believed, a point of vulnerability. Indeed, however, at these points of cycle endings, the Creator has planned opportunity for His holographic fragments to take advantage of the spiral acceleration that is potentially present. Tension is energetically focused towards the process which allows for those who will take advantage of the opportunity. This has been a very simplistic explanation of the unique situation. Indeed, history will be written in the annals of the planet. The pot boils, the steam builds, and the universe holds its breath as the moment approaches. Could the process fail? No, but the degree of advantage taken within the opportunity shall affect all within this universe. Remember that the Creator focus uses all within the flow of ever-moving energy in creation. Chaos is especially pregnant with opportunity for change. It's not to put out pressure on you that this knowledge is being shared, but to add to your understanding of the opportunity that is being brought into the situation that appears so hopeless. You must have your eyes open and use your ability to observe and analyze the actions that are taking place about you. The avatars of past have planted the seeds of understanding that lie dormant within human awareness. It is time to stimulate these seeds into sprouting and growth towards a maturation of the third dimensional experience. Those can accept this stimulation will, and those who cannot shall be given other opportunities. Shall any fragments be destroyed?
All fragments of the Creator's awareness must be accounted for.
Those aspects that have chosen to experience extreme imbalance are put into a space that is something like exile. It's not like a burning hell is used to frighten you into submission, but a space of separation to consider and to contemplate.
Beyond knowing that this experience exists, it is unnecessary to know more, for it is between those and their own inner spirit.
Will those that brought this to bear and those that choose not to share the opportunity be judged? Judgment has been a word to conjure up failure and guilt. Release the concept. It is another of the tools to control you, for instead of a closure of the experience, there is a releasing process, a review and a time for the soul, the source of each human focused into experience, to assimilate these experiences into the matrix of its totality. The experiencing focus cannot measure the impact of its life experience upon the matrix of the totality of that which focused it. It is that which focused contemplating itself. It would be self-condemnation for judgment to take place. Self-condemnation does not exist in higher dimensions. There is a world of difference between self-condemnation and self-contemplation. Condemnation and judgment are synonymous. This message is given in love, for it is enlightenment within the experience of communion with the flow of creation. It is intended to bring you to the awareness of being within its flow. It's exactly where you are. A new day begins in the lives of those residing upon this planet. Does this sound beyond imagination? No. The desire for what is entirely different creates a new vibratory opening. This indicates that there have been others who have been contemplating this possibility. The pieces of the puzzle have not been in their proper places before. In order for the chances of success to be at a greater potential, certain sequential events and circumstances must be in pivotal positions. The mass consciousness of the planet has to reach both a particular level of knowledge of the truth and the level of frustration within the feelings of resistance to recognize the changes that are coming upon them. There is present within those with the advantage of media communication the awareness of the repressive process, but as yet they are in the denial stage. Even that has given way to the suffocating feeling of the inner present that is being psychically repressed. You think of this as being a mind control game that they are playing, but I can tell you it's deeper than that. It's designed to imprison the inner self, which then causes the brain to slow, and the mental sleep process appear to be a symptom. If it were only such a process of stupor at the mind level, then you could have all been drugged into sleep long ago.
That is not the object of the process.
What would that prove to the Creator? What is at stake is the proof of the superiority to the capture and diversion of the soul energy and the enslavement of those particular energy matrix. At a certain point of the negative plan, those who have served them so faithfully will be among the first to be abandoned, for they have already proved their corruptibility. Their ideal slave has a different matrix entirely. If the plan is to continue the game into a larger focus of power, then what use are the sleeping slaves? How then do the planners of this escapade locate the ones of value to them? Would it be the ones that do not fall under the spell of their concerted efforts? Just whom do you think that identifies? Indeed, the stakes are high for each of you personally. Does this description fit? Why else have you been allowed to continue in the business of pointing fingers at who they are and what they are doing? These comments are not to instill fear into you, but to give you the greatest possible understanding of the situation that is now in front of you, indeed upon your plates. You have no place to go except through this experience. This is a short message, but is one to be added to the previous knowledge. Let us consider the leavening of the bread to lift your intent to an even greater focus. Know that all that this is given with the grace of love, for you are more valuable to the light than to them. You are a key to the lock that now holds the totality of this planet in prison. There is, within the organization of those with negative intentions for this planet and their contacts with the extraterrestrials masterminding the entirety of this plan raping our Earth, a good deal of miscommunication. Each has their separate agenda. Each has plans of reaching their clandestine goals at the expense of the other. Herein lies a vulnerable point in their coordinated effort. It's like two pieces of a puzzle that almost but not quite fit together. Inasmuch as we look at situations in terms of holographic energy, composites, or matrix pictures, we are able to determine points of vulnerability. So the point of this is that there is not a united effort within their reality of experience. The second weakness in their mythology is that of the feeding upon the negative energy that is created by the competition that is encouraged within their organization. When a weak link or a defection is found or manufactured within the members of their groups, there's almost a feeding frenzy upon that departed energy. It is far more satisfying to them that the same events happen to one of their uninvolved human beings. There's more of their own energy to feed the void of separation that must be maintained in order to continue their path. They do eat up the competition of sporting events. It is this point of clandestine divergence of purpose that is the major object of our attention. This opportunity is just that, our opportunity. Many scenarios to use this to our advantage have been considered. As yet, no exact technique has been established, but several possibilities would accomplish the same exact effect necessary. What we are saying here is, though your spearheading action is the key in the lock, there are forces at play here that are stacked up behind the dam that holds back energies that dwarf your ability to imagine them. Do not underestimate the importance of your role, however, for it is the trigger that releases this energy buildup. The forces of creation are hardly impotent. However, they must work within the laws that create and maintain all of creation. The magnitude, which is only the energies that allow the potential for creation, can encompass. It is as if there is a holding of the breath until your free will participation begins to shift in the flow of energies. We, on the one hand, must encourage and guide you in your desire to fulfill your purpose and assist you to be ready to act so that you can participate in the flow of events that will manifest as this flood of energies is released into movement. Thus, we are something like your sports coach, always with our game plan, with having to adjust and figure ways of compensating for the fluctuation in your synchronistic interactions, the movements and intentions of the adversary forces, and the free will aspects of manifested experience. Unfortunately, we don't have any recognition for sainted patience in this level of experience. Neither do we have hair to pull out when you surprise us with your personal decisions. The degree of commitment to the changing of the destiny of the planet from how it is now moving is our only organizational drawing power. The personal motive of the participating individuals is the primary element for inclusion and other beginning consideration of choice of contact. Then other elements of character must be considered. Blabbermouths must, of course, be excluded, but they are not likely to be available. The last statement may seem like a bit crude coming from our dimension of allowance. However, it is necessary to make that point clear. There are many levels of information yet to be considered. Until the primary contacts and discussions are begun, it would be impossible to go further with a cohesive formation of directions for you. There are no planned shots in the dark, so to speak. Even your contributions to the totality of this change in your reality must fit within the framework of the laws of the universe and creation. The law of attraction is the foundation of all other laws. You shall see this in the coming together of the essential beginning groups and in the final assemble that shall be cornerstone of this new evolution of experience. Within this pregnant combination of consciousness shall this conception and movement into the birthing process be possible. It is often quoted that there are no accidents. However, the free will ingredient within the evolution process certainly contains the seeds of both endless diversity and the leavening of the mix. We come to the end of this portion of our continuing dialogue as the process continues in an accelerated mode. Your days are blessed with synchronicity and healing. Love and light are showered upon you in great amounts in appreciation of your commitment. The time in your way of reckoning is coming into a critical number of days. We prefer to see it as sequential events, but since the knowledge of what these events might be is not available to you, time will have to be your way of being aware. We shall try to coordinate time-event correlation with regard to these events that are important for you to be aware of. At the moment, the contact between the parenting groups is the main focus. As things progress, we shall give you such information as is appropriate. The methods of contact between members must be such that no clear pattern is apparent, and the language used must be vague. As we mentioned before, certain words must not be used, and certainly none consistently. Many of these people have their own pet names for those we often discuss. It would be well to avoid using these, but merely to allude to them, or better yet, not to refer to them at all. This will help to prevent triggering the watchdog systems that monitor you on your regular basis. All systems of contact are monitored. You would do well to get accustomed to that understanding. The more recently a method has come into use, the more easily it is monitored. Unfortunately, wire and tomato soup cans just can't fill the bill. So it is thought and caution that you must use your communication devices. The dilemma of face-to-face meetings is that if you meet in a public place, you will be noticed. And if you begin to meet in clandestine ways, you will be noticed. This begins to sound like one of your spy movies, but things are as they are. At this point, of course, there is no problem. But as there begins to be meetings among those of you who are apt members of this project, two and two will begin to make sense to them. The ball must be passed onward and outward with little return contact regarding the project in a repetitive fashion. No one person or group of persons is to shepherd the project. All future meetings for business or personal reasons must purposely exclude any reference whatever to this project. Phone calls, etc., must not be for the purpose of comparing notes. At a certain time, the appropriate group shall come together for one meeting in which the ideas of the future experience of mankind shall be blended together. A simple statement of purpose will arrive at identifying a new genre of experience of the focus of this project. This is the time that the choices of to whom the baton is passed must be carefully contemplated by each person in a small group. Then each is to make their contact with the purpose explained in a face-to-face situation where it would be most difficult to be intercepted. Choosing through spur-of-the-moment decisions of appropriate basis is best. Your private offices are probably the worst. As I pointed out before, you are considered entities with special talents and are so of special interest to them. Do not underestimate your stature in their eyes. We know of no other way to remind you of these parameters without setting the stage like a cloak and dagger movie. Yet, as this is but indeed as a play once upon a small stage of creation, perhaps that is not at all inappropriate. So play your parts well. Just remember that your timing might not be as perfect as Bruce Willis is in the movies. This will come as perhaps a little late, since the first of the meetings have already happened, but that which is focused into this message has already been made to each of the contacts through other levels of knowing within the unconscious awareness. It shall be known to set the parameters. Other levels of your awareness are being instructed in this process in other ways than this. We are pushing you, but once the process has begun, it shall move more quickly than you imagine, for the pressure builds. The understanding of the hell that is planned for each and every human spirit shall cause the focus of a new paradigm to appeal to each contact at the spiritual level to a profound degree. A desire to participate and help with the solution to the planetary dilemma will be like letting go of a long-held breath within the spirit of each. An overwhelming gratefulness shall bring forth the action necessary, for it is said, God loves a grateful heart. This is true, and much can be accomplished through this emotion. It causes an uplifting of the spirit. Certainly, those of you who have been in service through the spreading of the truth to your fellow human beings can use an uplifting. As the acceptance of the future plans for this planet has come into your understanding, the failure of the people to grasp this, and their refusal to believe its existence, has caused you to face many a discouraging hour. but you have continued on with your spreading of the truth. Isn't this a glorious change of focus? The understanding that at long last there is a way, a plan to take shape, and the forces of creation are indeed here to help. This shall be a pivotal point within each consciousness that will bring forth a change of attitude and will begin to draw on multitudes of awakening people. It's not that the message of truth, what is present and surrounding them, will be different at this stage, but there will be a certain underlying attitude that will be the first trip of a trigger to each listening awareness. It will begin to be discussed, and the message will pass from one to another in gathering momentum. No longer will it be limited to those who listen to the talk shows and lectures. Those who have read and informed themselves shall be asked to inform and explain. Faithful tellers of the awful tale, you are the avatars of this time. But in the new paradigm, victim martyrdom has no place. It's not in the plan to allow that pattern to continue. This information is for your consideration. May your experience be filled with synchronicities and loving encounters.